The Proud Faces Podcast.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, pretty random. I usually invite my guests by feeling randomly. Sometimes I find my people on Instagram. I don't really invite a lot of friends yet because they don't know anything about my podcast yet. But welcome to the show. I like when it's random. So go ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing, that we can say two things at the same time. We can say that we work together and we've known each other for 3 years, but the reality is we don't really know about each other that much. So it was
it's. I think what I noticed over the years, like when you don't talk to someone, like if it's a coworker or a friend from a long time. If it's like at least 2 years and you've been active in your life, you need to reintroduce yourself. Like you can become completely different person. That's what actually people say when they meet me after a while. Like, you changed so much. Like, you've been doing this, now you're doing this. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, from your perspective, yes. From my perspective, I haven't done much. But to see, it's really good to catch up. And in the format of podcast, I think it's the best way to do that. I have a couple of opening questions as always.
Yeah, of course.
So since the podcast is called The Proud Faces, so what are you proud about the most in your life or maybe right now?
Oh, wow. That's, look, this is going to be like 2 hours before I even answer that question. And then we have a lot of other things to talk about. Lots of things, but I guess, I don't know, I guess I would just have to start from a little bit afar in order to answer that. And let's remember the question, go through the conversation and I'll answer it in the end.
Sure. Yes. It's perfectly fine. Another very simple question, because I usually invite my guests by essence, because I feel like this person needs to be on the podcast. You've seen a couple of episodes and you see like I have different people, and I hope to continue with the diversity of that. If you were to answer the question about your essence, and answering who you really are in the essence, what would be your answer?
That's not much easier than the first one, but I guess I've run out of excuses, and I'll just have to go ahead and start answering them. Because in essence, it's the same question, really. Because the things that I'm proud of and the things that are who I am, I think at the end of the day, they merge. And I'm still obviously in the process of discovering that. You know, you said a very cool thing. You said like your friends say that you've changed so much. And I remember this is a long journey in trying to grow up, basically. Not even like, I don't even want to say cliche things like growth, but just genuinely just trying to grow up and handle the world the way it is. And one of the phrases that stuck with me is that you need to change and learn and grow so fast that every time your friends see you, they have to meet you all over again. And I've kind of been trying to live by that. In terms of, there's still going to be a detour before I answer that question. So, because I do want to kind of address what I started with, is that we don't really know much about each other, but I want to say a few things. I do remember that you told me, because you realized when we worked together, I didn't fit in there at all. It was so hard for me.
I didn't really ask that question myself because I could definitely say in the retrospective view, like a lot of people didn't fit in there because a lot of people were like, some people look like they could be, the scientist or engineer or, artist. But I didn't really ask that question at the time. Right now, I could definitely say, why not? Because you sent me your fragment of your writing. It's amazing. We'll touch on that later, but
appreciate that.
Definitely, yeah. Of course, in retrospect, I can say a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the thing. I felt like fish out of the water because I've spent 15 years living abroad, and then I was submerged into the middle of and most people there, like on the sales floor, were younger than me as well. And 15 years living abroad, I was just out of touch with the whole thing. And I remember that because I do remember that I didn't really have, like, I was sitting just the way I'm sitting on the bin bag right now. I was sitting on bin bags, on the floor, on sofas all over the place. I didn't have a desk because I don't really like desks. And I remember you said, like, hey, why don't you come sit with my department? I thought, it's kind of cool to be with the department, not just by yourself. But you're the only one who did that. That's the thing. So everybody said, oh yeah, you can sit here. But then they would be like, oh no, but someone else is sitting here today. So, you can sit here except when you can. I'm like, wow, that's very friendly. Thank you. So that I wanted to bring up because that comes back to this randomness of this conversation, because that, you said you invite your guests randomly or based on the feeling. I usually try to trust my intuition because of the way I grew up. I had to read people quickly, and I just somehow usually know if I meet someone, I usually know, okay, this is the person I need to talk to for some reason. And for some reason that didn't happen, because that feeling I had about you, but that never happened. We never really had a time to properly connect. And so this is very random, and this is really the first proper conversation we're having in ever.
Yeah, I don't think 2 hours would be even enough, because
exactly,
judging by my previous podcasts, we usually have a person who's saying about their life or a story from the life. So we don't really talk about personal things a lot. Oh, well, of course we can, because there's no limitations on that. But you just mentioned that the way you grew up, so you can have to, you can actually.
I'll start there.
The thing is, it all comes down to therapy, because
it does.
I think we touched down on the previous podcast. I don't remember, maybe it was Alina or someone else. Or maybe it was Tommy on episode 3, when you have such a rough, traumatic experience when you're younger, you basically train unconsciously your mind that you have to anticipate something bad. That's why your empathy actually skyrockets, and in your life later on, people actually appreciate your empathy and compassion. Is that right?
Yeah, that's very much correct. We'll unpack that. We'll get into that. But to answer your question, what am I proud of? Well, it's the same thing that who I am. And at the essence, the phrase that I would use at the moment is crisis negotiator. Although it doesn't always seems appropriate, but I feel that it is. And including, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a practicing therapist. But at this point, I spend so much time researching things that I wanted to know, that I needed to know, that are relevant to me, that I can help people that have the same problems that I do. And that I do through crisis negotiation. The way I arrived to it was, through sales, but that brings us back. I guess I just have to start there. And it was, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, in a city that's considered big by regional standards, but it's still the middle of nowhere. And then the kind of side of it, which in the 90s and 2000s, you know what that was like, I imagine. And the problem is not even that, but the problem is also that there is a lot of, and that also relates to the things that I'm dealing with now on daily basis, is genetics. It's my mother, it's my family. And it's, there's just, I don't really keep in touch with most of my relatives, including my mother. But I can tell you that Russia must have been a tough place to live in the past 100 years. Because throughout families, I can see just damage, and thinking back to the way we were raised, because obviously we were kids and we looked up at our parents and we thought, well, they know what they're doing. Well, the truth is, first of all, they didn't. And second of all, the situation was, so can I swear on your podcast? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can. I can actually click on the 18 plus later. Yeah.
Fair enough. This situation must have been so fucked up for them that I honestly can't even imagine, because it is tough for us, right? I mean, life is rough. Then sometimes you have to, you're scared a lot. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of this and that. But still, the world, the way it is now, especially interconnected, and for me in Europe, Like there are laws that work, and there are things, that I can count on and kind of that will help me just cover basics and survive. But our parents, they didn't have that most of the time. That's not to excuse them entirely, but it's also kind of like sets the scene for where our generation stands, basically, you and I, because that was our parents I was just talking about. And that brings us back to my family. My mother is certifiably insane. A long history of mental health issues in her family. And mental health, the thing about it is people think it's about emotions, which is, sure, it is a lot, but also it's about neurochemistry, really. And emotions don't exist in a vacuum. Emotions are result of neurochemical signals. So if you're experiencing an emotion that is negative in some way, that will affect your neurochemistry. But if your neurochemistry is fucked, you will continuously experience terrible emotions. That's the case with my mother. That's the case with people predisposed to alcoholism, depression, a chronic anxiety disorder, and things like that. And that is literally, welcome to my family. And as a major...
And most of the families.
True. Well, I have additional things on top of that. There's two more things on top of that. So one of them is restless legs syndrome. Do you know what that is?
No, you can actually clarify that.
It's insane. It's a thing that a fair amount of people will experience, but not on the same level, because there are two types, primary and secondary. Secondary being sometimes temporary, caused by medication, caused by medical operations, and women, it's, in some cases, it happens with pregnancy or around that. There's a primary type, the genetic type. And what restless legs syndrome is when it's a dopamine deficiency in your brain. And dopamine in your brain is used for two things. Well, for a lot of things, but among others, to send the signal to the muscles to move, but also to send the signals to the muscles to not move. And this is important. So what happens is this happens with people with anemia who are low on iron, for example, because iron is a cofactor in dopamine production. So what happens is at night, your dopamine drops and your brain just doesn't have the dopamine to send the signal to your muscles to stop moving, and they don't know what to do, and they start moving.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Literally nothing. And the way it works is actually pretty terrible. This is literally like torture. It's actually illegal under United Nations Convention. The more sleepy you become, the more active your muscles become. So it's not that I have insomnia. No, I can fall asleep in 30 seconds flat anywhere on the floor, like whatever. But as soon as I do, I get this tension build up all over, mostly in the legs, but everywhere else as well. And you can try to ignore it. You can try to control it. It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Right.
The only way you can deal with it is get up and walk and wake up, which kind of will naturally prevent you from sleeping.
Wow. It's like sleepwalking pretty much, right?
No, it's not, because you're not asleep. You have to wake up for it to stop. You can't be asleep. You can't even, and at some point, like I wander around my apartment at 3 a.m. and I can barely see. I'm so sleepy that my eyes don't even just receive information. But I can't not move.
Are there any other treatments or ways out of this?
There are treatments, but there's no way to fix this. If it's genetic, like it is in my case, primary, there's no way to fix it. There was always a treatment, which is dopamine agonist, which is a terrible idea. You know why cocaine is so addictive, right? Or gambling, or amphetamines. It's because of dopamine. Because you cannot mess with any neurochemistry in your body and not expect it to backfire. Anything you turn up will eventually be down regulated, and vice versa. Anything that's getting down regulated is trying to build it back up. So obviously, the one way to solve this is to inject dopamine in your body in some way, and dopamine agonists is one of those treatments. Problem with that is not only they give you temporary relief, but obviously your body will build up tolerance, just like with anything else. So they will stop working. So you have to increase the dosage. And it will work the same way with any medication. Problem with dopamine agonists specifically is not only they cause your body to develop tolerance, but also they have an effect called augmentation, which means once you stop taking them, the problem itself will have become worse than it was before you started taking them in the first place. So while you're taking them, you're temporarily getting relief, but you're actively making the problem worse. And because the problem is genetic, primary, it means it's chronic, but it also means it's progressive with age. Because I've had this since I was a kid, but when I was like 7, 8, that happened maybe once every couple of weeks, maybe every few months. I don't even remember, but I do remember that it happened that early. But now it's like every night.
But you're talking about solutions and medications and treatments that from regular perspective on conventional medicine. But what about like something like yoga, meditation, or any other treatments that are not...
We will absolutely get into meditation, my friend. We will absolutely get into that. Trust me.
Yeah.
Not only I've considered everything under the moon over the years, but also I've arrived to a lot of the same things that I think you want to talk about, but from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
And that includes very much meditation. Yes, absolutely it helps. Meditation absolutely helps. There is a problem with that. Just like, again, what is like when people say depression, sometimes they reference this phrase, which is chemical disbalance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That chemical disbalance, again, it can be caused by something or it can be the cause of something. So if you're depressed because you're chronically stressed, you're actively burning through your dopamine, maybe you're blocking your serotonin, whatever. But you're actively sort of doing that to yourself because you're stuck in a cycle of stress. That's a possibility. But that doesn't happen in every case. In many cases, it works the other way around. Your neurochemistry is fucked by definition, by default. And then you can and should meditate, but it's that much harder because your neurochemistry actively makes you feel depressed, even though you shouldn't be and you're not. So meditation is even more valuable in this case and absolutely necessary, but it's also harder to practice. For me, it's absolutely essential because again, I will get back into the childhood story, but the important thing is that it's about reflecting on your emotions. One thing that meditation does and allow you to do is to understand when you are feeling emotions. Because as I always keep telling people, and surprising amount of people don't understand that, is emotions always are internal, always self-inflicted in every single case. Sometimes physical, sometimes you're doing that to yourself emotionally, but it's always internal. There is no thing out in the outside world that will cause you to feel something unless you're predisposed to feeling it.
Yeah, I would also add that emotions can be stuck somewhere in your ancestors' traumas from your previous lives as well. It's not just like something that you get it from this incarnation, but it can be actually way back from there, and it's really harder to actually find it if you work on it.
Absolutely, yeah, we do, and this is actually, again, like I said, we will talk about a lot of the same things, and that happens with a different friend of mine. We will talk about the same things, just from a different perspective, because I know you've been to Bali, you've lived there, and he did as well. And like he likes astrology just like you do, and he likes all these kind of things, and he believes in them. So we discussed them a lot. At the end of the day, science now is arriving at the fact that a lot of the things people have been saying for millennia, those things work. We just didn't realize or have the system to transfer them at the time. And there is actually a theory about that as well, because there's like, if we talk about like technology, yeah, like you built, I don't know, an axe 5,000 years ago, you're very proud of yourself. It's very easy to teach people how to build an axe. You show them, and if you can show them, you sort of draw, you make a drawing and whatever. But wisdom is different. And everybody has to arrive to it on their own. You can't possibly just transfer it and boom.
No shortcuts, yes.
read this book and you will understand everything. I'll understand. No, there was a saying actually that a wise man needs to read only about 10 books in his life. The problem is to understand which 10 books. The wise man has to read 10,000. And that kind of encapsulates it. So absolutely, we carry and harbor our parents' trauma and their parents' trauma because in patterns, we learn by watching. We are mammals at the end of the day. We learn by watching our adults around us. We assume they know what they're doing and we copy them subconsciously. And that's very tragic because we keep bringing the same patterns, even the ones that don't work. And most of them don't. But we keep bringing them into our relationships, our life, and then they don't work and we stress out about it and think, but we're doing everything right. We're doing everything like the way we were taught. Why is it not working? Because it never did. And the challenge here is to basically just understand that, reflect on that, and forge your own path.
Yeah, I have reflection on that because I kind of always reflecting on things because we live in the world of facts, but the facts don't exist. In fact, that from Latin language, fact is actually the word factum, which literally translates as a made-up, created thing.
Yeah.
So basically, we live in dogma, and I think every single person should become its own scientist and laboratory of things to try and constantly ask critical questions. Why I have to do this? Why I have to learn that? Why I have to take this medicine? Why it's actually, it's been public and stuff like that. Because if you actually break the cycle of that and start relearning everything, unlearning, that's actually when amazing thing happen. That's why we can discuss yoga, meditation, and that's how it works.
Absolutely agree with you. Yeah. That was with meditation. I've got stories for you. There were two scientists from United States. One of them, I always confuse Daniel Kahneman. No, not Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman wrote Thinking Fast and Slow, and he passed away recently, unfortunately. Legendary guy. Daniel Coleman, and he has a friend who's not very public. They've been studying meditation since the 70s, which is very cool because in the 70s, studying meditation was just not okay if you're a serious scientist in the United States. It's great because they wrote a book together. So one of them would do research. He's a psychologist. Daniel Coleman, he's a psychologist, and the other one is more serious researcher in neurobiology. But Daniel Coleman, he just became the writer. So they would do research together, but one of them would do more research and the other one would write. So they've been doing this for a long time, and they wrote a lot of books since the 80s, 2000s, 90s about psychology and this and that. But only in 2011, they published a book called Altered Traits. And it's about
I've read
meditation.
that one. It's amazing. Yeah.
Really? I am very surprised because not a lot of people have. And that basically answers, I mean that as a huge compliment, honestly. Not a lot of people even know that book exists.
You know how I found out about this book? It's really funny because I was watching the TV show called Billionaires or Billions. That HR manager, she was actually reading that book, Altered Traits. And I always pick up on little small things from the TV shows. Not that I just actually stop when I don't understand what they're saying because, it's not my native language. And I'm really picky on that. I have to translate that. Also, I noticed small details from the TV shows, and that was one of the books. And I don't remember much from it because it's on my list to read it again. But yes, this is the first time I actually came across that one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. There's not a lot of people know that book exists, even though many people, I think, heard of Daniel Coleman, but not a lot of people read that book. And I have to say, it's not the revelation. Well, I mean, you probably remember, it's not the revelation that you might expect. It's not like, meditation will save your life. No, it's looking at cold, hard facts. But the cold, hard facts are meditation is useful, even in small quantities, even if you're a beginner. And it becomes progressively better for you the longer you do it. So that's the basic takeaway. So meditation, absolutely, it is necessary for people. It's actually one of therapeutic interventions that's kind of like it's effective enough. It's called mindfulness-based therapy, actually, because mindfulness obviously is a type of therapy, and it is so essentially the word meditation was just frowned upon because it's kind of like, it sounds new agey and kind of hippie stuff. And so they just invented the word mindfulness, which is, I think, a translation from Sanskrit of some word. I'm not sure, but it's sort of,
it's more like awareness. Yes. Awareness.
It's one of the types of it's one of the types of meditation. So obviously, because if you get really into meditation the way that it was sort of developed over the thousands of years, there's different types of meditation, different kinds, different sort of depending on what you want to achieve. So obviously science hasn't studied all that, and scientists can't say, oh, try any of these and see what happens. Scientists have to say something works, and the only thing that we know for sure works is mindfulness, and it does. And so that's why it actually became a bit of a buzzword, unfortunately. But like everything else, AI, meditation, self, whatever.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the 70s in the United States, it was like I kind of frowned upon that people do meditation or talk about meditation. But at the same time, U.S. government was already working on the Stargate project, which is like secretly done. Yeah. And it was released last year or 2 years ago. And it was done exactly at the same time where people were not allowed or not speaking about meditation, which is like, it doesn't match up.
Yeah. The United States studied all kinds of things. Have you seen the film called The Men That Stare at Goats?
No, I never heard of it.
Check it out. It's an absolutely stupid film. It's ridiculous. It's horrible. But it has 4 major Hollywood stars, including Ewan McGregor, I think Jeff Bridges, George Clooney, and someone else, like seriously major stars. And it's based on true story about how United States Army were studying psychopathic, like telepathic powers, like that you could kill.
That is Stargate project, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a book written about it and a movie made about it a while ago. It's so silly.
It's so funny that over the years you watch these movies, like, and then you understand that it's actually half of it or even more. Like 75% is true. It's just made in a funny way, or they're trying to mask it. But then you realize it actually works. It's actually that's actually what's in the reality.
That's when I found out about it from that movie, because that movie actually sort of makes it clear that this is based on some truth. Like they did genuinely try to research into this, which is silly. But it was the height of the Cold War, and Soviet Union, they were studying some pretty insane things as well. So, I mean, it's, there was always this factor that, okay, it's silly, but they're studying it. And what if they find something and we don't? So we have to as well. There was a lot of
That's why we live in a dogma. So it was created, the structure where we live in. We given facts and we live by facts. Yeah. But they're actually working on something interesting, esoteric, and people don't believe in that because it's woo stuff. It's not for major public.
They have to work on everything. They have to, just in case, because they can't afford to be left behind if somebody else finds something.
If back in the days they worked on that, so it's kind of interesting what they're working on right now.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
Because they never stop, But we think we think about back in 70s or 60s if they went on to the moon or not. But they still developing stuff with AI and everything. AI is just for us to play with something, but they already have technologies way beyond our understanding, and this is probably the conversation we should have.
Yeah, well, except we can't really, because we don't know much, do we?
It's not that we don't know. Like there is level of consciousness or level of let's say level of consciousness. Like we live in 3D reality, right? What if this technology is from 5D or 60 or 11 dimension reality? It's like for the end. The human being, it's like absolute God. He doesn't even see the human being, right? Yeah. So for us, we cannot even comprehend what kind of technology it would be if we just given that information, we would never understand. Because even for some people, 4-dimensional reality is already hard to explain. We're starting to grasp how it works, but something far beyond our consciousness, we're not ready for that.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, the dimensions thing, I mean, they exist, obviously. 2 dimensions exist and 3 dimensions is a very good example. We can't even comprehend 4 or 5, but it's possibly more, probably more.
There's
Yeah,
11.
for sure.
They're saying there's like 11 dimensions.
Yeah.
In each dimension there is like, well,
Yeah.
it's cool. I can talk about it a lot because I watch a lot also Joe Rogan, and
Yeah.
some people as his guests also have a lot of podcasts. It's funny. But let's go back to the you mentioned about the medical treatments and that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, yourself. Like, have you heard about a guy named Gary Brecka? He is like into uh, well-being. He's into like biohacking, and he was also on Joe Rogan and a lot of other podcasts. He was talking about the DNA test, which is called also methylation test, that will actually tell you what kind of nutrients, what kind of diseases you can possibly have. So you can have for a lifetime vitamins and all nutritions, all minerals for life is set for good. So like, have you done a DNA test in that in such manner or not?
I haven't yet, but I definitely plan to, because the problem with legs is not the only problem that I get from my genetic makeup from my mother. So that actually kind of brings us back to the whole story. The other thing that this diagnosis sort of did to our family in a way is that my mother was always very violent, like seriously violent, and I inherited that as well. I'm not violent, don't worry about it. But the best way I can describe it is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That story feels very true to me. I only understood the whole thing. Like, I'm still in the process of understanding it. But so she would just literally fly off the handle about anything, and she would be just raging. And that would happen every day or every other day, and there could be a reason for it or no reason for it. It doesn't matter. It's just like pure terror and violence in our home all the time until I basically grew up and moved away. Well, actually, they moved to Spain before that. So until they were gone out from my life. And it's a pretty standard story in a way. My father never had the character to admit any of it and stand up for us.
Right.
So he just pretended that he didn't know. And I can forgive that. So I'm actually talking to my dad. It's fine. But the violence thing, no, I don't talk to my mother. And the problem with that is I actually inherited it. And that changes your perspective on all those people that get drunk in the bar and start fights. Because what happened was first time I experienced it, I was about 7 years old, I think. I was in my grandmother's place for the whole summer, which was one of the safest times in my year. Imagine that. 1,500 kilometers away from my mother. Perfect. For 3 months. And I was around 7 years old at the time. So that was already like, the violence was already a thing. It was like the earliest childhood memories that I have. Yeah. And I remember I was walking just out of my grandmother's place, had some kind of toy in my hand, and I tripped over a tree root. And I remember that genuinely, like, the feeling of rage that is so powerful and it overtakes you. Not only it overtakes you, it's also very pleasant, unfortunately. And
it reminds me of Dexter, like urge.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You just want to hurt things. You want to do harm. That's what you want to do. It's uncontrollable, but at the same time, you stay conscious for the whole thing. You understand what you're doing. You just can't stop it. And so I broke that toy violently over a tree or something. And I was scared at the time of my own reaction. So I thought, what the hell was that? Then later, as it kept happening at home, I connected the dots and I thought, well, that's what's happening. And I don't want to be that kind of person. And I had a dog, a big dog. We weighed about the same much at the time, probably. And sometimes when I was already like 12, 13, 11, if he wouldn't listen to me, like he would misbehave, he would disobey me. And of course, like I would sort of like punish him, yell at him. But sometimes I would genuinely lose my shit just the way that my mother did. And I was violent and I would beat the hell out of him. And I couldn't stop myself. And he could rip me to shreds. We weighed the same at the time. He could rip me to shreds. Right. It was a Belgian Shepherd crossed with German Shepherd. It's a pretty big dog.
It's a huge one, yeah.
Yeah, and he never did. He growled at me a couple of times, but he was just squealing and he wouldn't understand why, because we grew up together. When he died, I was 19 and he was 17. So we literally grew up together. And I thought, and that scared me. And I thought, I don't want to be that kind of person, like ever. And that was when I shut it down, but it's still always there. And sometimes when my neurochemistry crashes, and I'll get back to that as well, and I need to function, I can get myself angry and I will get the energy to do stuff. I'm not going to be a pleasant person to deal with, but I can get shit done, and then I will crash. And I'll spend a couple of days exhausted, depressed, just lying down without energy and stuff. So that brings us back to, I don't use dopamine agonists because that road leads to nowhere. There's a second option that was only developed about 10 years ago. And I started, I only started actually doing anything about it in the past few years because it wasn't a huge problem until 30. And I could actually, when I was around 20 years old, I found a solution that if I drink a lot of water straight up at night, then legs calm down and I can sleep. So that works for a while. Yeah. I still don't exactly understand how that connects, but I'm working on that because there's a clear connection. But it has to do with GABA neurotransmitter, which is funnily enough, is exactly the neurotransmitter that makes us happy when we drink alcohol. So there's your genetic predisposition to alcoholism. That's what it looks like. If your body doesn't produce enough GABA, you will be constantly stressed. You will be constantly tense. It will affect your production of dopamine. And if you drink alcohol, all of those problems will go away temporarily. That's literally...
Sounds to me like a grounding problem. So the meditation is not just only for grounding. It's like you said, it's mindfulness. So for grounding, also regular exercise, a lot of walking, which you do, and yoga. So are there anything like any other grounding solutions that you use?
The best ones, well, I mean, my hobbies, and I have a fair amount. Problem is, again, sometimes you don't have the energy to get up and move. That's the thing. It's a constant battle and it's a constant balance. So I'll get back to that in a minute. So I don't use dopamine agonists. What I do use is what's called gabapentinoids. And you might have heard of Lyrica, for example. It's an international brand and some people managed to abuse it, especially in Russia back in 2000s, I think. Because that's what it does. It affects your GABA neurotransmitters. It gives you the effect of a couple of glasses of wine, essentially. But then it stops working, so you need higher and higher and higher dose all the time. And Lyrica itself is a better and more efficient version of gabapentin, which is why they're all called collectively gabapentinoids. So these two things is what I use interchangeably. Why interchangeably? Because, again, you take one a day, it works for a week, it stops. You have to go up to 2, or you have to drop the 1 and wait out the withdrawal. There's only 2 options.
It doesn't get you high anymore, so you have to...
No. And for me, it's not even about getting high. For me, it's about being able to sleep.
Yeah, it's like the same thing.
So, exactly, because think about it. Everything in neurochemistry, you can think about in terms of baseline. You have a baseline. You take anything, like your baseline is here. You take GABA, goes up. When it goes up, it will go down eventually below baseline. So you will have to take another one just to get above baseline or to it in order to feel okay. That's the way it works with alcohol. That's why people have to keep drinking when they develop substance use disorder, and they have to keep drinking because not to feel good, but to just feel okay. The same thing will happen with literally anything you take. Anything you take that will turn your neurochemistry up will eventually crash it back down, and then you'll just stuck in the cycle where you just have to get back up to the baseline. So obviously you have 2 choices. You can go up or you can go down, suffer, wait out the withdrawal, and then get back to baseline, and then use the medication again in order to feel better. So it's cycles of like good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. And that's what I do.
So you have to basically control, regulate yourself. But is there anything like when it happens when you don't have a mood for it, or you just have to do it anyway? You just have to be really, really, constant on that.
On medication, it's not up to me. It doesn't depend on my mood. This is purely physical. There's nothing I can do about it. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. At night, all I can do is drink water, walk around sometimes, and I have strict rule with screens after sunset, essentially. Usually at sunset, I'm outside, and this is actually, Andrew Huberman would love me for this, but I will talk about this on your podcast. Sunsets and sunrises are super important from your neurochemical perspective, super important, because that low angle sunlight, it actually gives us signals to our clock that it's time to wind down. So it's very important. If you have, first thing you do, you wake up, you need to look at the light. You need to kind of be exposed to light. But then also at sunset, when you're exposed to light, that's when your body gets the signal that it's evening and you need to start shutting down. So there's no screens in my house after I actually turn off the whole thing with Wi-Fi at like 9-10 p.m. Good. Just the whole electric plug thing with TV, Xbox, everything else on it.
These magnetic fields are the fucking up with our systems.
Yeah, the only thing that I wish I could keep on is the speaker playing The Sound of Rain at night, but without the Wi-Fi, it doesn't work. So I'm still trying to solve that problem. And it doesn't rain nearly enough. I think the best solution for me is just to move somewhere where it rains all the time.
Well, at the same time, you need a lot of sun too. So we just have to like really balanced place.
You get tired of it eventually. And also, I think, I don't know, it's maybe, I don't know if it's personality or if it has something to do with upbringing, but I just love rain. I feel calm in the middle of a shitstorm. Like the worse things are around me and people freaking out, the better I feel. So when there's like a really proper thunderstorm outside and everybody's scared, I just feel I feel best. This is when I feel best emotionally, genuinely.
Especially the smell after it's like you hear the thunderstorm. Like
I think just the sheer power of it, like the awesomeness, like the overwhelming amount of sun, the sound and the flashing and the water, and it's just. I think that's
especially when the clouds are really low and your house is kind of shaking. That's the best one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just think that we need, we need hangovers because we need to remember that drinking is bad for us. And I think the same way we need like natural disasters in order to remember that we're not the apex predator. The earth is the apex predator and she can wipe us out any moment.
Yeah. It's all about moderation when it comes to like, there's not a metaphysical way of like, in philosophy, there's a few methods of understanding and discovering things. And one of the is metaphysical when it's like black and white, red and blue, right? Yes and no. And there's also another way, what's the name of it? Dialectic way, when you have a moderation, when you have, for example, democracy, when you have socialism, and then you have something in the middle and they actually meet, they actually, figure out, they find a compromise. And that's what it is. Like, everything should be in balance and everything should be in moderation. I think that's,
but also part. There's an interesting thing that I've also kind of thought about is that there is such thing. Marta Beck, I think, talked about this on Andrew Huberman's podcast. She said interesting thing, and I kind of want to bring that up, even though it makes no sense. There is such thing as when you feel something is just true.
Yeah.
And you probably can't even explain it, and maybe math doesn't even point in that direction, but you just feel that this is true. And what's amazing to me is that feeling, everybody has it, and it's usually right. But it's also tragic how often we just ignore it.
And the more we ignore it, the most likely we're gonna lose it. If you actually listen to your intuition,
we're losing it big time already. Yes, losing it like going crazy.
It's also called channeling information, and a lot of people, not just from esoteric world, a lot of people like musicians, like I myself, am a musician. I do creative things. Sometimes I channel. My podcast is the whole channeling. I don't really prepare for the guests like you. For example, it was pretty random. But I have also a lot of friends, musicians. They channel music, not like. You would never know if you listen to the recording, but when you see them creating music, he's doing some magic right there.
Yeah.
And he's not like 100% doing that full capacity. If he would doing that full capacity, he would surprise me himself. So I think something that we need to discover widely, how our actually operation system works, because we never get the instruction when we were born. We didn't have that. But if we understood from the beginning, we would never need
we got instructions. They were just terrible instructions.
Yeah, I didn't have any. I don't know about you, but instructions like, I mean,
you're gonna have to tell your own story one day.
Well, when you have your own podcast, you're gonna ask me all the questions you want, because we will. If I'm gonna tell my story and your story, we're gonna end up in 6 hours or more.
Fair enough. Yeah. But at least you'll get to see the sunset behind me.
Yeah, beautiful. So you're in Spain. It's amazing. If you would actually remove that canopy, it would be more beautiful at some point.
It's also still 30 degrees outside at 6 p.m. and I'm not removing the canopy because it's just it's still scorching at this time, at this hour of day. It's still scorching, and add 70-80% humidity to it, and you get a hammam essentially.
Yeah, and it's where I am right now in Siberia. It's 7 degrees Celsius. So
yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to. I'm definitely gonna have to get just my own podcast just so I can bring you there, and so you can show me Siberia and talk about it. I've never been there. I've never been to the east from where I was born. I've been as far west as San Francisco, but I've never been to the east.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I have this kind of light, lifestyle, because when I have my laptop and when I have this ability in the riverside, this technology and everything, I can take everything with me and have my music anywhere I want to when I write my music, and I have anybody on podcast any place in the world. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't even imagine easily done, because you would need to have a lot of things. Now, you can only have your smartphone right now at this point, because you don't even need a laptop. But I kind of like it. I can be anywhere and travel and just do my own thing. No,
absolutely. Yeah. That's why I don't even like furniture, because I spent so much time with my laptop around the world since I was 20 when I first went to the United States and bought my first laptop. I bought my first laptop. I already had laptops before, but I never bought them. But that feeling that, you have this little piece of technology and you can go anywhere with it. And I literally used to, I don't know if you know much about Wi-Fi encryptions, but there used to be an encryption called WEP, which was super easy to crack. If you use, because I used to be a computer nerd as well. I used to use Linux operating systems instead of Windows until I got myself a Mac, like a grown up. And
like a normal person, yes.
Like a grown up, yeah. When I was a kid, I messed around with Linux a lot, and I was setting up servers just for the hell of it. And there was a Linux distribution you could boot up from your CD called Backtrack. They don't exist anymore, but I remember I had Backtrack 3, 4, 5 always with me, and anywhere I am, whether it's there were stories. I was stuck in Boston overnight with no place to sleep twice in 1 year. Silly. And I've been all over America, and always my laptop with me. I would always find a network somewhere, crack it quickly, and then I have Wi-Fi, and that's all I need, really. It's like 2 a.m. in Boston or 3 a.m. in Florida or God knows where. Not so easy now because the encryption's changed and they're better.
Yeah. So if you want to go back to your previous story, like you said, you've tried a lot of unconventional ways of regulating the disorder. So, what else have you tried that you actually back on GABA and stuff?
The thing is that it's not about, and I don't like this debate between conventional medicine and non-conventional medicine. I think at the end of the day, we underestimate the power of our mind in regulating the whole thing. Potential power. We don't train it enough. And meditation is a training, essentially. Meditation, what it does, it basically trains you to understand and use your nervous system. And it's very funny when I talk to my wife about these things. I always talk about my nervous system separate, as if it's separate from me, because it is. Because sometimes it does its own thing and I can't control it. I can try, and I do, and I can learn how to, and I can use medication and not use medication, but it is still a relationship you have to establish with, a part of yourself. It's the monkey brain, or it's the fast brain, or whatever you want to call it, your nervous system. But it functions outside of your control, a lot of it. And best you can do is learn how to control what you can, and learn how to understand and influence what you can't control, and how to live with whatever you just can't even influence. That's it. There's no other options. But it sounds easy, but the meditation, that's the continuous practice of discovering that and training in that and thinking about it, reflecting on what works, what doesn't, why do I feel the way I do, and what can I do? What do I feel if I do something different, and how do I feel if I do this and that? And I feel best in the mountains, for example. But that's the thing though, like emotionally, I feel pretty well like now these days. I've spent so much time trying to, 12 years at this point, I can tell you exactly. It was about 25 when I realized that for me, mental health is going to be the path to survive. That I'm looking at my mother right now, and I can tell you that I was right. I don't want to end up where she is right now when I'm her age. And I started spending a lot of time. That's why I got into sales. I was paralyzingly shy. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't function on my own. At 25, I couldn't go get a kebab alone. Like I would ask a friend to go with me. And he said, this is a true story. And he said, no, I just eaten. And the kebab was 200 meters away. He's like, I've just eaten. Why don't you go get one and come back? And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not that hungry, because I just couldn't do it alone. And that's when I thought, this is a road that leads nowhere. Like this is going to be just pretty miserable from here on now. I have no idea how to live life, how to function. Nowhere near.
You've mentioned about the what's it called? I have a brain fart right now. So yeah. So have you heard about PNE, psychoneuroenergetics?
Psychoneuroenergetics.
Yep.
No.
So essentially, it is actually a way of a method of regulating of our nervous system, because you mentioned nervous system, right? And basically, inside our body, we have chakras, of course, from yoga, but we also have fascia. Fascia is actually something that actually all around our muscles, and the fascia is actually integrated together with the nervous system. So it's not integrated with muscles. So what it does is actually it's proven that it's not the same material that the rest of the body. So it's more like crystalline thing. That's why it gets more treated with the sound, with meditation, with yoga. Because if you do regular exercising, because people get muscles in the in the gyms, the fascia doesn't respond to that. But when you do holistic practices, fascia responds really well. And PNE is also connected to Chinese medicine. When we have meridians all over the body, you can use tapping technique. You can use Ayurvedic needling as well. All of that combined basically describes how PNE works. Basically, if you're an experienced practitioner, you can tap a couple of things on meridians of the body and you can heal the person. So this is also true and it works, because I wouldn't actually, do my own research on PE, because it's not easy to find anything on fascia, because only like a few books in the world on that. And not a lot on PNE. I'm actually trying to get one professor. He's like 80 years old. So I'm trying to get a professor who's really been around for a long time, and he's discovered PNE because it has also different names from different professors. And I had the pleasure on other podcasts with him and other people. He's like flawless. He's amazing, and he knows like 6 languages. So that's why because I actually experienced myself, and there's a healer in Moscow that I went to, and I thought it's a regular therapy, chiropractor, but she's actually not working with bones. She's not working with the muscles. She's basically working with fascia itself and working slowly with meridians. And when you ask like how you learn that, she says like it's actually a really big secret. You cannot just find the people like that, because you have to like be around certain communities and everything. and really, really not a lot of information. That's why it fascinates me to find this kind of information. And this is something I spend a lot of time on right now, because if you were to ask me the same question I asked you in the beginning about your essence, so my essence is a healer, and healing can be done in various different things.
Very different ways.
Very different ways you can do.
And in essence, that's my, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in essence, that's my essence as well. Just I do it very differently.
Right. Yeah. That's why I mentioned that, because yes, you can talk about crisis and stuff like that. I can do it in a way. So music, talking to people, some people that never knew me, they feel shy, and in 5 minutes they can actually talk about everything about their life.
Yeah.
So in terms of P&E, it's actually something physically almost like touchable can be done to a person. That's why I can actually apply. Try to apply in the future, like actual healing, that people would understand that you're not healed because we just talked about healing, but I actually done something. So there is so much to learn about it.
Yeah, there's actually people are talking about fascia now in scientific circles in America as well, which is as always great to see when scientific community takes a concept seriously they didn't take seriously before, because the concept has actually been around for a while, as I found out, since like 80s and 90s. It's just the same thing as with meditation. It was not taken seriously. That's the thing. I think that's why it's fascinating to me as well, because in a way we're looking for the same answers to the same question, you and I. We're just doing it very differently. Because I actually stick more with like scientific approach. And probably it just so happened. I think I'm past the age when I would just kind of say, oh, this doesn't work. This has no basis in science. So, screw whatever you're saying. I think I've outgrown that, and I wish that everybody else would. It's just my personal kind of like style of exploration is more like maybe based in like methodical science. It's just the way I prefer. But what's fascinating to me is how many things, like I said in the beginning, how many things that we always took for, some kind of basically voodoo magic that are coming around, and people starting to talk about this, like, because it exists. And fascia is one of them as well, for sure.
Not just fascia, but, psychoneuroenergetics and psychocybernetics and matrix energetics, all of that combined. Like, have you heard about the psychoenergetics?
No, watching Foundation, I've heard about psychohistory, but that's different.
Well, in a simple way, it's all about self-image, right? For example, if you had for example, trouble with your nose, and then you went for a plastic surgery, you would still behave the same way that you have your nose still before the surgery. So yes, so it's very interesting to learn about that as well, because when you're healed, you have to basically change your self-image. You have to work on that through neuro practices. It's so complicated, but I agree with you on the scientific approach, because without science, it's actually hard. So you have to take some facts in, and also allow some metaphysical ways. Even Einstein, he was the smartest person, or maybe still is considered the smartest person. He was the one who actually said that imagination is more important than the knowledge. At the same time, he worked a lot with facts.
No, I agree with you. And actually, to add to that, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy makes a lot of sense, and it's proven, and it's scientifically sound, and it has the highest success rate in treating mental illness. But at the same time, I always found that it talks about concepts, but you're talking to somebody who's emotionally distressed. How can you throw concepts at somebody who's feeling? Because when somebody, when you have an emotion, while you're experiencing it, we say, oh, that is an intense emotion. So you're feeling it much higher, much more intensely. Obviously, you can't think very straight in that kind of state. Like, you are all about your emotional state. There's so many things. This podcast is going to run on forever. There is a woman called Jill Bolte Taylor, if I'm not mistaken. She was a Harvard neurobiologist for a long time. She was, I think, on somebody's podcast you might have seen, probably Andrew Huberman. And what happened was her brother had autism from when he was little. And that's why she became a neuroscientist, because she wanted to kind of understand how does that even work, that she is like everyone else and he is so different. And then when she was 30-something, she had a stroke and half of her brain shut down, and it was the left half. The right half stayed online. And she was alive, and she could, for all intents and purposes, she was conscious. But she wouldn't remember her name or names of her colleagues or who they are or her family, or she couldn't count. She wouldn't be able to tell you how old she is or what she does for a living. None of that factual information was there. It was all gone, just gone.
Yeah.
And all she had was just pure like feelings, emotions. She would feel things, and that's it, without thinking about feeling them, you know? And then slowly, little by little, because she understood what's happening, she managed to dial a phone number. She could barely speak by the time somebody answered, but they helped her and she survived. And then slowly, little by little, her brain came back online. And as it was happening, because she's a trained neuroscientist, obviously she saw what comes back online. At some point, suddenly she remembered her name. At some point, suddenly she remembered things about neuroscience or about math or whatever else. And then she wrote a book about it. It's called Whole Brain Living, which is pretty cool. And that also, another thing I want to add to that, that was a theory written by a Yale professor of psychology, I think back in the late 70s, which was just outrageous at the time. And he wrote it as a mental exercise. It's not a scientific paper, not a scientific book, because he knew this was never going to pass. But it was on theory of consciousness. And what he said was that his theory was that ancient Greeks, when they talked about Zeus and Athena and Ares and whatever else, and how they would say, oh, Apollo told me to go do this, or Delphi Oracle told me that Zeus said to tell me this, whatever. The theory was that at the time, they genuinely heard those voices in their heads, because there was still no connection between the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And so both sides would function, but they wouldn't be connected. So you could count the amount of steps you need to take from your house to your farm. And at the same time, you could clearly hear Zeus's voice in your head that tells you to go rescue someone or go on an adventure or whatever.
Yeah.
You could do both at the same time. And that people didn't understand any of that until evolution bridged the gap between two sides of the brain. And that's when consciousness we became self-aware of ourselves. And that's where we are now. And it was, like I said, it was not taken seriously at the time at all. And that's why he didn't even try to pass it out as a serious scientific literature. But now the concept is coming back around, especially in light of the book that I just told you before. Because what she described, Jill Bolte Taylor, what she describes that when her left side of the brain was shut down completely, and it's not just two sides of the brain, each side has a side as well. So it's like left frontal, left rear, right frontal, right rear. And they're responsible for different things. So she described it. So I just recommend, I'm not going to quote her and just spoil it. I recommend just looking it up. But the important thing is that she said when she only had the right side of the brain available, what she could feel was, well, just everything. Everything that is described in what would be considered religious texts. Like you would feel one with the universe. You would feel infinite love. You would see the light. You would feel just at peace, just being a part of everything and nothing matters. And like all these things in the most positive way. That's what she was feeling. And she said, no, I felt great that time. I couldn't tell you my name or even talk to you, but I felt great at the time. And that, in a way, my theories and everybody else's theories right now, the best guess at least, that is exactly what meditation allows us to do. And also some psychedelics, which I'm sure you're going to love talking about.
Well, I think it's... the book I'm reading right now is actually described the same thing when two guys have played a lot with psychoneuroenergetics, with this kind of new wave healing techniques. They actually put each other into trance meditation, trance form, where they don't understand that the left brain doesn't work anymore. It's just temporarily not there, but you feel everything just like she describes. So it's not just a meditation that everyone should do. Is you actually have to use the experienced practitioner to put you into trance mode, where you can actually access somewhere different realities. That what actually do is like completely insane. It's like it sounds so preposterous at some point, but the thing is, you basically go into trance. You choose the reality, the dimension where your body didn't have this kind of injury or disorder. You choose that. You go back and you live your life. Imagine how crazy is
that? Yeah, exactly. I think even the description of the, like, if you think about a description of Jill Bolte Taylor, right side of the brain, and you think, what is enlightenment? Well, that's probably it. It's probably just being able to activate. Exactly. You have to feel it. That's the thing. And that's kind of the theory goes that that's the problem. We've overdeveloped the left side of the brain because it's easier. It helps us survive. Like feeling enlightenment or gratitude is not going to save you from predators, right? Or put food on your table. And so obviously early humans needed to survive. And when that connection especially was bridged, and they realized, okay, we really need to take care of this first before we can think about all the religious stuff. We need to make sure we have farms, we have pigs and sheep and whatever else.
Well, if you think about it, everything in life is in two, right? And it's a balance. We have two hands. We have parasympathetic system as well. So,
yeah, exactly. It's in halves. Yeah. But that's what I call the lost knowledge, because think about it, we've evolved in tribes, and in a tribe, well, first of all, you don't really have a lot of possessions, and that brings us back to when you start taking care of your survival too much, you need to make sure you have a farm, because you start thinking here's one of the defining elements of consciousness. What is it? It's our ability to manipulate time with our mind. What does that mean? We can think in terms of the past and we can think in terms of the future. And this is the greatest advantage. And it's also the greatest tragedy of humans, because our time span can be manipulated, but we don't do that consciously most of the time. And that's where it brings us back to the farm. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure you have food not only today, but tomorrow and the day after. But then also, if you have children and a woman, then you need to make sure that all of you have food tomorrow and in a week from now. And that brings us to concept of suddenly trying to make sure your possessions are safe, building boundaries, then trying to define who you are protecting them from. Is it the people within your tribe, or is it the people from a different tribe? And what happens if people from your tribe come to you? All these complicated questions, they needed answers. And we started trying to think and figure out and this and that. And over-concentrated on the left part of the brain. In the meantime, the right side of the brain was trying to tell us things, but we ignored it.
Yep.
And that's where we are now.
It's not like we did everything wrong. It's just, there is a saying, what was the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So what we can do right now collectively is work on it, and not just the meditation, but just to bring awareness, because people live in the dogma that everything you say is supposed to be understood, but we come to technologies and we come to new form of knowledge. It cannot be just understood. You have to feel it. I can say that meditation is good for you, but until you spend 3 months, you would never understand what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Because for every person it would be different. Yeah.
I've and this is transferable across hobbies, but this happened to me when I played golf. I played lots of things: golf, airsoft, floorball, lots of sports, any active sport that I could get my hands on. And when I was playing golf, I was playing with the Finnish guy, who was a friend of mine. And he constantly, so he explained to me the whole thing, and it's pretty challenging. You have to make sure your hips are in the right place, your knees, your elbows, and this and that. And so there's a lot of that goes into it. But at the end of the day, I realized that either you can hit the ball or you can't. And it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn on this one. So when you hit the ball, when I hit the ball, he would constantly tell me, you took your eyes off the ball. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you're looking at the ball before you hit it. And just before you hit it, you look up. Mm-hmm. Because I want to see where it goes, but I haven't hit it yet. I'm just assuming that because I've almost hit it, my body will continue doing what I'm doing, and I can already look where it goes. But that's the mistake, because once I drop the concentration, my body has no idea what to do. Because all this wiggling your ass and fixing your elbows and locking your knees, it doesn't work for shit if your brain's not in it. And that's when it hit me, because I've heard the same concept before in different forms and different wordings. And I thought, let me try something. I know what it feels like to have a good shot. I've had that. Problem is I can hit maybe 3 out of 10 good and the rest is just terrible. But I know what it feels like to hit a good shot. So why don't I just try to reproduce that feeling and let my nervous system do the rest? And that's exactly what I would do. I would look at the ball and then I would just allow my body to experience a good shot and then just get the fuck out of the way. And it would happen reliably 8 out of 10. Immediately, I said to my friend, hey, check this out. Let's run a test. I did 20 shots, 8 out of 10 both times. From 3, 4, 10 minutes ago. Just simply by focusing. Just not even by focusing, but by allowing yourself to feel what it should feel like what you're doing right now.
Right.
Does this make sense?
What I was mentioning about, it does make sense, because what I was mentioning about psycho-cybernetics, you can check out the Maxwell Maltz. He was actually, when he developed his program, because he was a neuroscientist, but when he developed, he was actually demanded by a lot of football players and hockey players and golf players. Yeah. Because all of that is about self-image and self-regulation. So if you check out that, maybe your game will improve drastically as well.
Well, I don't really play golf now. I'm more into airsoft, actually. But I've been playing that for a long time as well. But then I applied that in airsoft as well, actually. Because in airsoft, this is slightly different, but it's also a very interesting perspective. You ever played? Do you know what that is?
Airsoft? How do you play it?
Strike ball in Russian.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
You know
definitely.
That is,
I've played a lot, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I've been playing it since 2011. And the thing about it is, obviously, it's not real war. It's not fatal, but it still hurts, right?
Of course.
And so,
it hurts a lot.
Exactly. And so you find yourself thinking too much. And I hate that feeling so much. If I would bring down the essence of airsoft over 15 years into 2 things, and they're related, 2 scenarios, alternative scenarios. And one is, imagine you're moving as a squad. There's 5 of you. There's a huge building. There's a field on the left, right, and center, whatever. And you enter the building, shots get fired, you shoot at somebody, you even kill you shoot somebody, you're happy with yourself. Then you look around, your team's gone. You don't know where they are.
Right.
Maybe they were killed back there, or maybe they moved on and forgot about you because you didn't see and they were busy as well. And that's when you get stuck. You stand there by the wall, shots are being fired from everywhere, you don't know who's shooting, and you're scared because if you move, you might get shot. But if you stand, you might also get shot. And you don't know which way to move, and you can be standing here, and you get locked in a decision making. You get stuck in the decision making. You cannot make a decision. It's a horrible feeling. And you realize at that moment, you're target. You're sitting ducks until somebody shoots you. Do anything. Just fucking walk straight with your gun pointed down, and you'll still probably do better than standing here. But you just can't. It's paralyzing. And the alternative scenario is when you stop worrying. And it's so difficult, but it's the same thing as in golf. You have to allow yourself to feel what it feels like to play this game. And then your body will do the rest. You completely lose yourself in it. You lose fear. You move better. You respond better. You react better. And even if you get shot, it doesn't actually hurt as much as you thought it would.
Yeah. I think I've heard of this techniques back from actual. I think Sean Ryan, one of the veterans, from real battlefields, they were talking about it, like embodying this flow, thinking less about your strategy, because that strategy is for actual training purposes. But when you're in the battle, you act completely different, and for them, it's like a image that would happen, but they cannot even explain the whole story because they were like completely in the flow in different game. And they like killed the whole team just by himself. And it's
the flow is
a lot of the stories like that.
The flow is the reason we do this, and it applies to any hobby. But in hobbies, complex, obviously on the battlefield, I imagine I've never been, thank God. But I prefer to shoot people where nobody has to die. But on the battlefield, the stakes are much higher. And I think we need, in our life, we need an element of aggression. We just need to channel it into non-harmful ways. And airsoft is a great example of that. We get to shoot each other, and we get to, experience pain and inflict pain and be better than someone, and then be worse than someone and lose and feel shame, and then be better at someone and feel proud. And nobody has to die. That's like the ideal scenario for me. Because you get all of those emotions. Obviously not that intense, but then again, that's why I was actually going to make a joke yesterday when I told you I was walking on those rocks. I was going to make a joke, then I thought it's probably not very politically correct one, but then again, do I care? It's the reason I go on those rocks is because I'm like, it's like if you've been, veterans who have been to war, and then they come home and they dig trenches in their backyard and sleep in trenches. Like I've moved, like when I was a kid and a teenager, I hitchhiked, I traveled a lot, I went into mountains, I hiked a lot, and I still do. And sometimes I just need to feel something other than asphalt under my feet. And that's why I go on those rocks, because it's just a rough terrain. Just so that I can walk on it and not feel like I'm in a city surrounded by people, surrounded by buildings and all this structured and neat, organized environment, It just
it's a great workout. There is nothing like a hiking nearby, just walking by the rocks you showed me. 1 mile there, 1 mile back. It's already a really good workout,
Yeah, my legs were actually pretty burning this morning. So but I've done that run a lot actually, because I used to run long distance as well. I ran half marathon here in Torrevieja a few years ago. And that's where I would train on those rocks, because I also used to do parkour when I was younger. I did a lot of things.
Probably not a good idea to train on the rocks right before the marathon, because you can twist your ankle by mistake.
You can. I've actually only had one fall on those rocks, and that was a pretty hilarious story actually by itself, because I've run on those rocks a lot. And it's pretty easy to me, because I used to do parkour. I really like climbing everywhere. So balance is something that I'm pretty good at, and reflexes, and just generally moving in rough terrain. I'm not very strong, like in terms of upper body, but like I walk well. And when my wife just moved here, eventually we made the paperwork last year. And we went out for a walk there, and I said, I want to kind of walk on these rocks. And she's like, oh, that looks dangerous. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. I've done this 100 times. So imagine what happened.
And not a lot of company as well.
No, exactly. But what happened, obviously, was that was the one time when I actually fell. And she was walking on the bridge, on the bridge where people walk, and I was on the rocks. Thankfully, she didn't see it. But what happens is there's a bunch of stray cats living in those rocks. And I got overly confident. And also, your wife is looking at you. You want to kind of show off. So I was moving a little more carelessly than I usually do, and this and that. And then I kind of jumped from a rock, from one on the other, and kind of try to catch balance, look to my left, and there's a cat. And the cat is just looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing here? And the face, like if you've seen Tom and Jerry as a kid,
pretty much
you see that face. Exactly. And that made me laugh, and I lost my balance, and I started falling between the rocks backwards. And my first thought was, holy shit, I'm going to break my back. My second thought was, this is going to be so embarrassing in front of my wife. But out of reflexes, I stuck my hands out on both sides, scratched the hell out of my left arm. I actually still have the scars, but I held myself and then climbed out. And before she could see it, I went to wash it off and then come back like nothing happened. And she's like, "Oh, you're bleeding." I'm like, "Yeah, no biggie." The point of the story is flow and lack of flow are very different states. And it's very easy to lose flow. And you lose flow when you start thinking. That's the problem. That's the performance anxiety for you. When I played floorball, I could make a pass, no problem, but I could not hit it in the goal. Like, what's the difference? It's exactly the same exact maneuver, same exact move. Nope, just doesn't work. Because everybody is looking at me and they wonder if I'm going to score or not. And so, of course, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly the same. Exactly why those football players, famous football players, would come to Maxwell Maltz from Psycho-Cybernetics to help them. So they would ask them the same question.
There's a different guy, actually, who wrote a very similar book called The Alter Ego Effect. Do you know it?
Yes, I've heard of it. Not it's. I think it's on my list. I think I've seen it somewhere. Like
It's
I have thousands of books to read later. Yeah.
The guy is literally coaching athletes. And the concept is exactly the same. He says that we should exploit different
personalities. But maybe he's the more recent one, because the Maxwell Maltz was one of the first ones, and who's doing that right now is actually his disciples. So
this guy, he's just practice. He doesn't have a lot of like background. He played sports. He had a good coach, and the coach taught him something. And then he was like, he had a trauma of some sort, like a broken leg or whatever, so he couldn't play anymore. So he started training other athletes. And the way he does that is by trying to build up that alter ego, because we are like different personalities when we're with families, when we're at work, this and that. And he said, just embrace it and build up your tool set of different personalities. And when you're on a pitch, when you're on a football pitch, be the fucking legendary champion. Just be that guy, and don't worry about it much, and see what happens. And that's basically, in essence, the method, because that's exactly like in golf. Like, if you allow yourself to feel the shot, your body will do the rest. If you keep thinking about it, it's not.
Yeah, it's also, it comes in automatic on autopilot at most of the times, but we have to practice it. You know, like Bruce Lee was saying, like, I'm not scared of the guy who knows 1,000 punches. I am scared of the guy who trained one punch 1,000 times. So
exactly.
So I had another question from the beginning, but we're already like 1 hour in, almost 1.5. The question was about what you're focused on right now most of the time, because you've sent me your fragment of your writing, which is amazing. I read only one part called Administrator, which is in Russian, which is I'm not like professional guys who gives it reviews, but in a sense, like, I even posted on X platform on Twitter recently. The idea I've had, the realization, it's all about no friends are fans and no fans are friends. So sometimes we create something. Because I've had this experience with music, right? And the first thing you do, you send it to your family, you send it to your friends, and stuff like that.
Oh, I've thought about it.
People say, okay, it's fine, or they don't react at all, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing to do with your writing. I think you have everything what it takes to write. But because I don't have enough capacity or enough experience to actually, to say, like, because I read a lot of books, but it's nonfiction. But my favorite author is probably Haruki Murakami if it comes to regular literature. Yeah. So he's like very different. There's nothing to compare with you, of course, but he has like this idea, metaphysical idea he wants to bring out. At the same time, he has so much attention to details that this atmosphere you cannot forget. So hence you cannot forget about his metaphysical idea that he's trying to bring up. For example, if you say, I'm walking into the hotel room, I open the door and I'm inside the room. So the Haruki Murakami would say, I'm twisting the doorknob to the left. I'm swinging the door. I'm hearing the screech of the door. then I walk in and I see the dust piling up somewhere. So like so much atmosphere, the rays of the sun coming in, I feel and everything. All this atmosphere gives you a different vibe. And probably the one comment from that perspective is like, if it would have a bit more atmosphere about the conversation, but of course they talk about karma, right? That's the main, that's the main physical, I mean, the metaphysical idea. But if it also was a lot of detail, it would probably feel different as well. But I think you should do that. I mean, if it's just for fun, for your like soul, I think it's amazing.
Thank you. You actually nailed kind of the writer's block problem there. Well, at least one of the scenarios, the way it goes is that exactly because I wrote before. I worked as a journalist, and when I worked as a journalist, it doesn't matter. You just like, you're a mercenary. You write text, people edit it. You don't care. You get paid. Especially in Russia, as a student, when I worked as a journalist, it was like sometimes you have to write like bullshit you don't agree with, and then they edit it to the point where you don't recognize your own text. So what do you care? But then when you write for yourself, obviously you want it to be kind of like the way you want it to be, and then you like it or you don't. And if you do, you want to share it with people. But what we don't realize in that moment is that people, they don't look at you as a writer. They look at you as somebody you know, and you give them this text. They're not going to try to kind of like read this and think, oh, is it a good text or not? How does it make me feel? They're going to try to think, oh, this friend of mine gave me this text because he wants me to like it. What if I don't? And maybe what if I don't like it entirely? So instead of like just absorbing the text and thinking, feeling, do I like it or not? And then giving feedback, they start to kind of overanalyze it. And then because you want feedback, obviously our ego is nowhere, it's still there. And then you want feedback, but they can't give you an honest feedback on your text because they don't comment on the text. They comment on you writing it. And then you get feedback that you didn't kind of expect. And then you're like, oh shit, I must be a terrible writer. I'm not good at this. Fuck this. And that's where you get stuck.
Same thing happened to me. Like back in the days, like it was 2012. I just started maybe 2 years in my vocals with my teacher trying to sing because I had a terrible experience in school, when you have a school band and you're trying to, so you're trying together and he's like, there's a logical question, who wants to sing? It's like, I want to sing because I just want, but not sure I can, but, and I try and everybody's laughing, they just so hard that it actually becomes a trauma. But I was already at that age, you don't receive the trauma. Trauma usually basically fixates on age of before 6, but it was already like, in teenager times,
that's still awfully kind of shame. Like shame is one of the most toxic.
Shame is a lot, but I worked through it and I created another band and I decided to take classes, professional classes, because she was a jazz woman. She was the only one in my city and she did an amazing job. I wanted to scream. I wanted to do harsh voice, but she couldn't do it because it's not professional for her because she finished the professional institution. And after that, after 2 years, we decided to record a song that my friend wrote from the band. He was like just a lyrics guy. And of course, I had a lot of accent. It was in English. But what I did, of course, I sent it to everyone who was laughing at me, who's not, and everything. And I didn't have enough feedback of people saying you have to continue. But for me, it was actually important to continue my journey because at the same year, 2012, I left Russia for California to reach my dream as a musician. Right, so it was part of my story that I will continue on your podcast.
I didn't actually know that exactly. I knew you were in the United States, but I didn't know why.
So basically, when I reached there and I started showing to people I actually meet, and one of the guys was he's no longer with us, but he was a dancing choreographer for Michael Jackson and Britney Spears. Imagine like. Huge figure, he's really famous in Hollywood. He was my roommate at the time. Wow. And he was like, oh, you actually do music? Like I was showing him my demos. And I said, like, I have one complete song from the studio. And I give him a listen. He said like, why aren't you famous? Because you at least should be in Russia. Okay, you're here for Hollywood. You need to work more on your accent and stuff. Over time, it's going to get better. But it's really amazing work. And of course, not such a feedback I had back here because, like you said, it was feedback not about the music I wrote. It was about me because I did it.
Exactly. So, and the most cringe-worthy feedback you get from your closest people as well, which is so tragic. Sorry, I interrupt you. Like the closer you are to somebody, the worse the feedback will be.
But the worst thing is, we actually talk about this a lot on my, if you want to listen, if you will have time, it's with the guy, Oli. It's episode number 4. He's a musician, really inspiring one. He had, he was really vulnerable as well about his mother as well, because he was young. He abandoned his home and he started making music, and I think it continues. He's still young. He's like 21 years old, but I'm talking like...
Yeah, we didn't even get to the suicide line. That's what I was saying. We were already talking for an hour and a half.
That would be so many
things.
All right. So exactly. So the thing is, the conclusion was that we needed this kind of people, and we still need them. That people don't believe us, that they cringe us and stuff like that, because it's actually propel you to move forward. Not that I have, like, if I search my pants right now, like in my pockets, I probably wouldn't find many fucks to give right now. But before I would actually listen for that bullshit. So over time you evolve and you ask for opinion, but you still do it. Yeah. So that's the difference. And if someone's watching and it's important for them, friends or family's opinion, just get the opinion, but do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. It works with emotions in general. And I was telling my wife that today, like, it's important to feel things, but it's also to understand that a feeling is just that. It's a feeling. It's trying to tell you something. Get the message, discard the rest.
Yep.
That's it, yeah. With the writing, with me, well, I've been stuck on this administrator thing, actually. So I mentioned a friend earlier that I talked to about astrology and things like that, and theories of consciousness. And he's very much on like your side of like the aesthetic stuff. I wrote that when we were living together because he was arguing with his wife and he moved into my spare bedroom. And the karma thing, that's him. Like the phrase that this is karma, this is karma. He kept saying that. And one day I was just like, I just sat down on my laptop, disappeared for 2 hours and came back with that text. 2 hours, the whole thing. Writing and 3 times editing. I edit usually around 3 times. And that's kind of the problem as well. I am pretty good at writing. And if I edited that text more times, I would get a better text. I just wanted to, it was just a 2-hour effort. And that brings us to the problem. As a journalist, I'm just a former journalist, obviously. Most of the things I've ever written were in journalism format, which means they were pretty short and I could write them in one sitting. So I can do a pretty intense bout of writing for 2 hours, which will include the whole thing. 6,000 words easily, like I would write 6,000 words. One of the chapters, the first chapter that I sent you in English, I have 7 more. And they're all more or less about the same size, between 4,500 and 6,000 words. Because that's more or less what I can come up with in 2 hours of one session. Writing, editing.
I can compare this, I can resonate this with the music. Like you said, like you spent 2 hours, you wrote that administrator thing, right? So the last demo I sent you, it doesn't sound complicated, but imagining like you have to do mastering and everything.
Yeah.
I actually did it in 1.5 hours. So sometimes it's like in the flow. When you're in that state, like I can, procrastinate. It's like Leonardo da Vinci, right? I was talking about the Virgin on the Rocks, right? 20 years of procrastination. Mona Lisa, 15 years. Same thing, like I wasn't, releasing anything, and this, boom, 1 hour, it's done. So same thing, like I think there's even better right now, like all this new generation, they watch and listen to this short-term forum context, right? So basically, it's getting really popular. Short stories, but they have a punch, right? They have a message. They have like this karma thing. So I think if you start like this, and if you actually release it, and then along the way you will find your own, because the journey itself is all about the journey. I mean, I write music because what I show right now through music, it's only 2% of my capacity. If I work with professionals in the studio with a producer, he would probably take me to 15%, but I would never get to that full capacity of I have music in me right now, or other, dispositions. But in writing, I think there's no rules like at all. You can just write anything.
The thing is that I write probably because I'm just too lazy to learn how to make music. And I tried. This is ironic.
I think
music class, I'm sorry, I will just tell the story quickly. It's actually childhood trauma of sorts. Music class, I started, first time I skipped school was in 2nd grade already.
Wow.
And the class was music. The reason for that is I actually, so happens from my parents, or I don't know for what reason, I actually have like absolute musical hearing. I don't really have the voice. I sing to myself, not bad, not terrible, not great, but I have the hearing. I don't have the voice. I have the hearing, and I can hear very well. And 2nd grade, we get to the music class, and this woman starts making us sing a song called Перепелочка. My God, fucking look it up. It's still like, it makes my soul burn when I think of that song. Like, I hated it with passion. I still do. All these years later, I fucking hate that song. Every time we had a music class, she would make us sing that. It's fucking depressing. It's terrible. It doesn't sound good. Just know, like, I'm not singing it, and I wouldn't. And she would come to me like, oh, you're not singing, because the class was also kind of like an amphitheater of sorts. So she could see everyone. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. She's like, why are you not singing? I'm like, I hate the song. She's like, no, come on. Like, I'm the teacher here. So, she was not expecting from a 2nd grader to get shit like, I don't want to sing a shitty song. So she started kind of like being a problem about it. And I started skipping her classes. I actually figured out a way and convinced my classmate to do it with me. And I came up with a master plan how to skip music.
If you have perfect hearing, like there is a saying from Regan Healer. She's a spiritual leader and on Mind Valley. I've listened to her podcast sometimes, and her basically signature saying, even the signature when she sends the emails, it says, you can have it all. You can absolutely have it all. It's like, you can be a writer, you can be a musician, you can be a healer and everything. Like, you just have to prioritize. And for example, if you have a hearing, you still can make a lot of good music. You can be like a DJ, you can be producer, you can be a sound designer. You don't have to sing. So that was with me. So like, I was taking vocal classes just because I wanted to sing. But then in my band in California, I was playing bass and back vocaling as well. And then I decided to do vocals as well. So and now I write different types of music because I visited Bali. I've got all this enlightened, and then I can write ambient stuff. It's just different ego, different version of me writing that. At the same time, I can go completely nuts metal, and people would not expect from me because they don't know me all too well. So I can have all of these characters, and I just pick which one I want to play, and I do that.
That's actually very relevant because I keep trying to figure out. So I've already figured out that I'm not ready to write a big project because that's where I got stuck before. Because I can do one piece in 2 hours, but I can't do anything bigger than that because it's just too overwhelming. And I'm generally quite a lazy person, which is why I don't play instruments. I don't know how to make music. With the music though, it was always like, I always sang to myself. I like sounds. I like to copy sounds randomly. Sometimes people make funny sounds and I randomly copy them immediately without even thinking. And people feel like I'm trolling them. My wife keeps telling me, you're such a troll. I don't troll her. I actually just do that naturally because I like the sound that you just made and I want to repeat it. So I would sing to myself. Actually, the reason I would do that as a kid was to calm myself down. I would go for a walk alone away from my home, from my mother, and I would just sing to myself because it stimulates your vagus nerve apparently. Or whatever. With the writing, though, that's what was overwhelming for me, is that when I started realizing that all my random short stories are becoming one thing, then I thought, then I need to make it into a book. And then when I was like, holy shit, I've never written a book. It's overwhelming. I have to keep notes. I have to it's just so much like, no, I can't do that. Everything has to be in my head at the moment. And a book is something you can't keep in your head. You have to reach out and bring things in. You have to get more organized in terms of logistics, planning, project management. And I have enough of that at work, so I couldn't be bothered, to do it for writing. But recently I'm realizing that, as you said, short stories actually are coming back, I think. And I should probably just do that instead of...
Or just write a huge book of small stories. It's like you don't have to post each story. You just create a story. Like there's one of my favorites, I forgot, is like Maurice Leblanc. He has like the story of... what is it called? Arsène Lupin. And he is like villain, famous villain in France. And he was, trying to be sneaking stuff, and the whole Europe is looking for him. And there's like a huge book about this kind of rogues and villains. Yeah, that's called the one big book of rogues and villains. Basically, short stories. You can look it up and see if you can find yourself writing similar stuff, but making it your own big book of stories. I think could be in demand, because you can, sit for 2 hours, write one, and then in 1 year you can have 12 stories. It's fun.
Yeah, maybe, because like I said, the English one that I sent you, I have 6 more or 7 more. I think 7 or 8 total. Don't remember. And they are exactly that. Like I came up, like I wrote that one, the first one that I sent you, the one in English. And in the end, it was about this one guy. There's only one character in it. And that's it. Like, there's nothing else. And I actually, I really like to, like, I like weird stuff. I like dark dystopian sci-fi. But I also like when, like, I like to write things when there's just one character, for example. And this was that first chapter is the first experiment in that. The entire chapter is just one guy. I can say, I'm not saying it's a very successful experiment, but that was the experiment. And I have a story also about this one guy who gets stuck in a specific place for a specific reason that I kind of want to write as well. But that's the thing. It's a short story. And again, having been thinking about it, I convinced myself that short stories are nothing serious. And if you want to be a serious writer, you have to write something bigger. So that's how I convinced myself into a corner. Basically, into a writer's block.
Well, yeah, I think you've got all it takes, and just thinking about the therapy technique, right? Asking the questions. Do you know anyone who's already famous and making money by writing short stories? Yes. Why don't you? Right?
Yeah.
So simple as that. You can. There is no rules. Yeah. Like there is a platform you can release small stories, short stories, and one day when you have enough, you can release another book containing all of these stories.
Yeah. No, you absolutely see, I know all that. It's just not easy to get yourself to actually start doing that. But the funny thing that you just said, you phrased it exactly the way that Marcus Aurelius phrased the quote in his book. Meditations, obviously. Because he was writing to himself, right? This was a diary, essentially. Never planned to publish it. And there was one quote, which in English sounds very posh, and I was actually looking for it yesterday for some reason. But if simplified, it'd be something like, you have a mind, don't you? Well, why don't you use it then? Like, you have a brain, why don't you use it? He was writing to himself like, you have a brain, why don't you use it?
Well, I've been into Stoics a lot. I've read God knows how many books. So I think that's the whole different podcast about Stoicism, because it's, once I quit, corporate world 2 years ago, the only, sweet thing you can find is actually about Stoics, like, because they already figure out all of this life thousands and thousands of years ago. So I don't have to come up and create the wheel again. I can actually use their knowledge, because maybe before it wasn't available to me of my conscious level, because I was different version of me. Yeah. Right now it relates so deeply that I can read and I understand. It's like
you're ready. You're just ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes like we watched a movie for a second and third time and see completely different thing because it's a different version of you watching. Same with books, same with spiritual stuff and religious stuff, especially religious stuff like Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata. You cannot read it like when you like in school. Sometimes you cannot read it when you're 30. Sometimes people only at 50 actually opens up. And I lived with the monk back in Bali, and he was actually saying that this kind of scripts, this kind of books, they're actually protected by spiritual world from people to understand them. So if you actually put intention to serve the God and be mindful and be aware, then this knowledge will open up to you. You cannot just randomly open the book and read about Mahabharata. So you have to be ready for it. So same with meditation, I guess.
Yeah, you have to be receptive to it. You have to have an open mind, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, you can put the check mark that you read it and tell everyone that you read it, and that only tells me that you don't know anything about the
book. Seth Godin was talking about this on a podcast to Tim Ferriss that now, especially these days, if you write a nonfiction book, what you're creating a problem for people who haven't read it. And their problem is they want to know what it is because other people have read it and they know. But you don't need to read the book to solve that problem.
Right.
You can just read the summary. And that's it. You solved your problem. You can talk to your friends and say, oh, I read this. It's about this and that. And people will
summaries.
I know, exactly. But it solves people's problem. That's the problem. People don't read.
You kind of get... You get a big idea because I've had this application for 1 year.
That's the thing. Most people don't read in order to kind of experience the book. Most people read to solve a problem, which is other people read it and they haven't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a self-serving motivation rather than trying to understand things. Have you seen the movie called Sunset Limited?
I don't think I've heard this title before.
That is a movie you need to see, absolutely. And it has only 2 actors in it, Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, yeah. The guy's talking in the kitchen or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think I've yes.
One of them is a professor,
I just forgot about
suicidal professor, and the other one is like ex-convict, prison convict who's religious.
Yes.
Talking about the book. And they were talking a lot about the book. He was telling me, like, have you read this book? Is it a good book? Is it the best book? So it just reminded me. It's a really good film, actually. And that brings us back very nicely to the concept of suicide. I've never been suicidal, luckily, despite all the possibilities. But the reason for that was somehow, I don't know, like I always felt like, okay, there's so many dumb ways to die. And if you don't want to live anymore, you can get yourself in one of the situations that's likely going to get you killed. And that could be something noble or something stupid or something dangerous and dumb or whatever. You can join a conflict. You can go be a firefighter. You can, I don't know, go ski off mountains that are not designed to be skied off. There's many ways to kind of just take a step back and say, fuck it, I'll live what's left, and whenever it's done, it's done. But I also realized that not everybody feels that way. And with suicide, and I'm going to get probably a little bit editorial here, but we tend to think that suicide is 2 things. It's either cry for help, that means that person doesn't actually want to die, but doesn't know what else to do. Or it's cry for attention, meaning the person just wants attention.
Right.
And both of those scenarios exist, but they're not necessarily the majority. There are genuinely people who just don't have the desire to live. And I've met those people, and they're still alive, and they've been living with that lack of desire to live for decades. Those people exist. Sometimes people genuinely arrive to it due to circumstances, and they just think no, and they just believe that it's an easier way out. The problem is, and again, a lot of people don't understand that you can at the same time not want to live and also be scared of dying. You can be both at the same time. So that brings us to the suicide crisis line. When I started learning sales many years ago, because I told you how paralyzingly shy I was, I realized sales opens me up to being able to talk to people, knowing how to talk to people. And that's it almost felt like superpower at some point. And it still does sometimes. And so that's why I really liked it. So I was selling real estate, but I didn't care what to sell. I just wanted to talk to people and get better at it. Eventually, I moved on to negotiating, and I worked for a builder. I sold like €1 million villas. So there was a lot of negotiating with rich people, experienced people who know how to negotiate. So that was like a school of life. And I was arrogant going in, and there were some deals that dragged on and taught me hard lessons about negotiating.
I remember you were like sharing stories back in cloud.
I came from real estate directly into cloud. And then
I was really surprised that you changed your direction because you were, so passionate about real estate and
I was passionate about selling.
Okay,
and negotiating.
More money than
but
yeah.
in real estate, there's a lot more money, especially in Spain. And I keep taking pay cuts because now I left a corporate job in finance in a British company with a corporate car and with insurance and a really good pay by local standards where I live, like really good by local standards. So I left all that because it was depressing me and I didn't want to do it. And I joined a startup with basically anything, no processes, no employees, no understanding of what to do, no budget, nothing. Well, they do pay me, but not as much as I'm used to. And also no guarantees, like what's going to happen next month. I don't know. Are we still going to be a company or I don't know.
Yeah, it reminds me of the story from back in Dubai. I've had the same situation.
I can imagine.
I changed T-Bank to this company and no promises, just a startup. Yep.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the one that I joined will work out better than the one you joined.
Hopefully you will actually find yourself in a better place than actually sitting in the office. That's, I don't know.
If it's true. Well, I don't actually sit in the office. I work from home, but that's true. And I actually had this conversation because talking to you actually made me realize that I'm probably tired of selling stuff at this point. And this is when we cling on to our vision of ourselves, like personalities. I've gotten so used to thinking of myself as a sales guy that I no longer could look at myself in any other way. And trying to figure out what to do next, I would always look at it from the perspective, okay, this is what I do. Where will I do it next? And it would not occur to me that maybe I don't want to sell stuff anymore. Maybe I want to do something entirely different. And that it brought me to a conversation with a mentor that I found, actually this random Croatian guy that I found on LinkedIn that I like the way he writes. And I started talking to him. And then at some point I said, dude, help me out on this. I need a mentor. Can you help me? And he's like, yeah, let's get on the call, which is incredible, which is why I like Europe. And that's why I believe in humans, in people. I still believe in people because people still do that. And we've been talking, he genuinely just tried to help me out for no interest of his own. And when I talked to you 2 days ago, I messaged him out of the blue and I said, suddenly I'm realizing that maybe I don't actually want to sell stuff anymore. Maybe I want to do something else. And he was like, yeah, maybe you do. He started also saying, I was talking to you and thinking, why do you sell stuff? Why do you want to sell this? But I came up with an answer. I probably am ready to stop being a sales guy. But this project is interesting and I've already taken it on. And this is going to be the last one that I work in sales. And I want it to go well. Because when I leave this project, and I will either way, it will be either a 10-year career in sales that culminated in a startup that I helped bring up, or it will be a 10-year career that will culminate in a startup that died out and then I just gave up. Will it make a lot of difference? Probably not. In terms of my career, probably not. I can, circumstances and can be explained. But for me personally, I want this project to succeed and then put the whole sales thing behind me. And I will never stop selling in a way because we all sell all the time, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. It's all about conversation. Yeah, it never stops.
Exactly. But I don't feel like it should be my profession anymore. And the part of the reason why I feel that way is also the crisis line. And the reason I actually joined it was because when I got into negotiations, I arrived at crisis negotiations. What is this? This is what FBI developed with New York City Police Department. Actually copied them, really. in the 80s, and this is techniques to negotiate with people who are emotionally unstable. And that's usually bank robberies, hostage situations, kidnapping situations, terrorism, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, when I arrived to this, I found this guy called Christopher Voss, and he was the FBI chief international hostage
I watched the masterclass of Chris Voss. Yes, it's amazing.
Oh, pretty cool. I have them. But it started with his book. Literally, I arrived to crisis negotiation from his book, and and I arrived to his book from I think a TED talk that he did. But he tells a story in the book as well. And he was actually a SWAT member, like a SWAT team member. He's running around kicking doors down and shooting people if they didn't comply. But then he had also like knee problems and he couldn't do that anymore. So he decided, I'll become a negotiator. So he came to the academy and they said, well, you don't have any experience or education. Go away. And he said, no, but I really want to be a negotiator. And they said, well, go volunteer on the suicide line. And then maybe. Mm-hmm. And so he did. And that story actually brought me to thinking, I love negotiating. I just don't want to sell commercial products to people. I want to talk to people, especially I want to talk to people who are emotionally unstable, who are more difficult to, who are not like, because we think about negotiation as in, what's on the table, logic and like, okay, the deal, we give you this, you give us that. But that's just matter of fact. What about human emotions? And in a hostage situation, there's no matter of fact. You have to get them to give up everything, go to prison, not shoot anyone, and you can give them back anything in return. How do you negotiate that? So that's what brought me into that. When I read that story, there is in Spain, there is an emotional support suicide hotline called Samaritans in Spain. And so I joined them. And I volunteered for 2 years. Volunteered for 2 years. I put it on pause now because of my own kind of health issues and this job that I've also taken on. But that's something that I will probably come back to, not necessarily to Samaritans, but that is in essence, and this is to answer your previous question, the first two questions that you asked in the beginning. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. As you said, you're a healer, so am I. It's just our approach is very different. But in reality, that's what I do. I talk to people, I get them to tell me where it hurts, and then I change their perspective on it to get them, to point them in the direction of healing, because you can't heal people. What you can do is you can point them in the direction of healing.
Yeah, it's like from therapy or coaching or mentor sessions, right? So the main agenda for the coach is actually activate something in you that you do it yourself. It's never about healing. So I give you just enough vibrations that you do it yourself, but I would never heal you like in conventional medicine, like when I give you medicine. But it's very interesting. Yes, I've seen the Chris Voss books, and back in LA when I used to live there, and I watched the just about like when I finished watching about I read the book about what's his name, the first Canadian astronaut, and then Chris Voss was the second one. Because I was also into sales, but when you like comparing sales job like in corporate world and something in the crisis line is different. That's in a way of serving a purpose or purposely serving. So here you're actually serving a purpose because you want to help people, and it goes beyond your own essence, right? Because it will help people, probably will echo in eternity. Like if you help this guy, he will not die, he will make children, right? It will echo in very long time, right?
Yeah.
And
I
for
think
example,
that's very true.
Yeah, if you, for example, work in a company, you make a couple $1 million or euros for the company, which is not even yours, and this company is not even eco-friendly and stuff like that. It doesn't really serve the purpose. You're just purposely serving to feed your needs. So it's very different. Yeah, it's like really subtle thing that we can find in changing our lives. You can actually do something really close.
Why I don't want to sell anymore.
Well, my question was, I was actually wanted to insert that. I wanted to insert back in like 10 minutes ago. Maybe that think that you were scared to go buy kebab and talk to people, maybe that was already a sign that you're not into sales. Have you ever thought of that? Because sometimes we need to overcome our fears to activate something else, but then we have to unlearn it again and find ourselves again, because it's just basically stepping stone, not actually the fear that we overcame and then we stay in sales, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's literally what I've arrived to, I guess, recently as well. Yeah, because especially after, and I actually said this as a joke to Stanislav, to my boss from Cloud Payments.
Right.
We're actually still friends. We still talk all the time. I'm
Amazing.
actually selling my solution to him right now. But
that's probably really odd thing to do.
Yeah, sure, but it's also we've been actually friends since ever since. I don't know, huge. I respect him a lot, and for some reason he chose to be friends with me as well, so that works. And I used to tell him as a joke, but as the saying goes, every joke is partially a joke. I used to tell him that I'm not interested in negotiation until it becomes a crisis one. But in part, it's true, because you just don't feel like it was when I started selling. It seemed empowering to me that I can talk to people like a grown up, discuss things, and arrive at common ground. And it was amazing to me when I couldn't go and buy a kebab on my own. 2 years later, I had to do this. And that felt like a superpower for a while. Like I said, then I got into crisis negotiations, and these transactional sales conversations, they lose value completely. And after a while, not only they lose value, they start actively annoy you, because it's just so repetitive and so silly. And you make that worse if you go on a suicide crisis line. Yeah, exactly. And you make that worse if you join something like a volunteering on suicide crisis line, because the way that works is it's completely anonymous. It's a phone line that has an English-speaking person at the end of it, and you don't know who that is. And if you call, you don't know if you'll get, like, I can give you a phone number, but even if I tell you, like, yeah, I'm on, you don't know who you're going to get, me or someone else. And even if you get me, I will tell you a different name. Like, it's so anonymous that we will not share any details, but we'll not ask any details of you either. And the kind of differentiator here with the Samaritans specifically, it's a British organization, actually. It exists, it's huge, and it exists for a long time in Britain. We're kind of like Spanish affiliation. The important differentiator with them is that we would never try to convince the person not to go through with it. We would try to explore the reality behind it. Like, have you thought about it? We would I would actually ask questions like, do you have a plan? Do you have a method? How are you going to do it? Are you afraid of this? What do you think about that? How do you feel about this? Have you considered this? So we're not like saying, no, you shouldn't do it. We're asking, are you sure? Have you thought this through? Are you 100% positive this is the way? And sometimes it is. And what we would do sometimes, as I said earlier, the person wants to get it done, but is afraid and wants someone to have to talk to while.
Right.
So we had code 0, which is in distress, but in distress, but in control. We had code 1, which is suicidal thoughts. We had code 2, which is suicidal ideations and verging on suicide. And we had code 3, which is suicide in progress. And sometimes you get a call, and luckily I never got one of those. In 2 years, I was lucky enough not to get one of those. But sometimes you get a call and somebody says, I just swallowed a bunch of pills. It's happening. I'm scared. I don't want you to talk me out of it. Don't call the police. Just be there for me for the next 30 minutes. And you have to be like, yeah, okay.
So do you actually know consciously that person is going to die and you don't do anything? You just talk to them?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's not our job to save anyone. And even if that person tells me, oh, I'm in downtown Alicante right now in an apartment block on the street, whatever, I am obligated to call the police, but we don't do that. So what I would have to do is I would have to say, you have to hang up now and call me back. because it will be a different call, and I can say that I don't know anything about you. Because if I know anything about you, I have to call the police.
Wow.
So it's very strict with anonymity.
So
it's a lot of difficult subjects there.
Does it really bother you? Like,
yeah, go on.
You joined, like, what was the reason to joining? Because if you, for example, if you want to help people, right? But sometimes it's not something that you can actually control, right? And most of the time it's even under regulation that you cannot do it anything, you know?
Exactly. The reason it's on pause for me now is because, well, mostly my health issues. I don't have the energy for it. But also part of it is that I don't agree with the fact that I think they're kind of a little bit pushing it on the side of non-interference. I think we should be able to interfere a little more.
Especially with the technology's AI to find the person by the call is so easy, right, these days.
Yes, but the thing is that we can't do that because if you have a crisis line, you want to help people. Look, if somebody calls me, and people ask me this a lot, oh, it's actually starting getting darker outside.
Yep.
People call often and ask, is this call being traced? Is this call being recorded? Is it being monitored? Do you have my phone number? Do you know where I am? And if the answer is yes to any of those questions, they will hang up. So
which increases the chance of person actually doing the suicide. Yeah. Yeah.
You can have all the technology tracing people down, but people will just not call you. That's the reality of it.
Well, the question then comes to like these numbers, you know, or like the upside, like if people are calling and is there chances are higher that you actually save them, prevent them from doing the suicide, or if you just talk with them until they die, what are the numbers? Like, is there any statistics that you know of?
No, I don't know statistics. If I were still volunteering, I could probably ask, but why would I? I can just tell you my own experience. Most of the time, vast majority of the time, it's seriously distressed but not suicidal, or very distressed and suicidal ideations but don't really want to. People sometimes are so tired of their mental health issues that they just don't feel they don't feel there's any other option. They don't want to do it. They just don't see any other options, and they're tired of things the way they are. And that is major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. Brad Blanton called these people, and I very much include myself into this category, they called us garden variety neurotics, which is very true. So look, in the very simple terms, the way it works, you have stressors, right? And stress is internal for sure. Outside situations cause you stress. So, for example, your work causes you more stress than it should. If you're generally an anxious person, you're shy, you're constantly stressed by what your colleagues are thinking about you. What's the review going to be like? What if the client doesn't sign the deal? What is your boss going to say next quarter? So you're stressing a lot at work. And then at home and social life, you're still stressing. What are my friends thinking about me? What if they're not really my friends? Why am I such a loser? And they maybe don't think I'm cool. As a generalized anxiety disorder, that's what literally just happens in your head all the time. That's stress. It could be very intense over very short periods, or it could be slow burning over a long period of time. But if you have generalized anxiety disorder, chances are you have extended periods of intense stress. That's what burnout is. Literally burning up your nervous system because it's firing up on the stress hormones all the time, and it just doesn't have the time to balance it out. Because remember, again, if you bring anything up in your nervous system, it's going to have to come down. And that includes if you do that to yourself. If you constantly kind of revving up the engine even without any chemistry, just by yourself, you're gonna burn it eventually. And that's what happens to people. And that is when chronic stress is left unchecked. That usually ends up in depression. It's almost non-negotiable. It's going to end up in depression. That's what people call. That's when people are exhausted. First of all, emotionally, they can't think straight. Second of all, this has been going on for a long time. And when they call you, usually they're on verge. They're just tired. This has been going on for years, and I don't know what to do with this. And I still feel so stressed.
Right.
And I don't want to kill myself, but I also don't see any other options because nothing has changed in years. That's generally the setup that you get. Somewhere in the beginning of that journey, in the middle, or at the very end, but everyone more or less is on that journey somewhere. And the earlier they call, the better.
Yeah, it's both jobs are pretty much fucked up. You're just saying like working for corporate, working for the line, but at least you get a chance to save a life at some point. You
choose your kind of fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. You just between the fucked ups. Like I would probably be the person who actually called the suicide line if I stayed in the corporate world, because I can definitely resonate. Because I never felt better, I never lived better, I never ate better, I never had this wellspring of
when
ideas.
You told me you moved to Siberia, I immediately knew I need to talk to you. I'm sorry I interrupted you rudely, but that was part of the reason why we're here right now. Because like when we worked together, I thought, yeah, we could be friends. There's some kind of connection. We could be friends. But then life, we went separate ways. But when you told me like, yeah, I'm just feeding rabbits in Siberia, I'm like, shit, from Dubai to Siberia, feed rabbits now. This is the guy I need to talk to. Because most people wouldn't do that. Most people would genuinely stay in what doesn't work until they snap, and they either call a suicide line, or they do something so dramatic it's actually ridiculously stupid, or they just, I don't know, people do extremes. People do just nothing and burn out and die of alcoholism, stress, or cocaine.
If somebody's watching right now or listening on the verge of, suicide line and calling, what was preventing me from staying until the end, until I was completely burned out and close to getting like this kind of help, external help, that was actually spiritual practice. I started doing yoga in UAE, actually, even before Bali, and meditation. And that slowly was actually open up to, different kind of ideas and the wellspring of creativity and thinking out of the box. And I was like, I live like in simulation, like a Severance TV show. Have you watched it?
Yeah, Severance. You mentioned, yes, I have.
So basically,
that was another reason I thought I should really talk to you.
Because when I was like in UAE and I started doing yoga and meditation, one morning I woke up after I've done my meditation at night before I went to sleep, and I woke up, and then I see all this simulation. Everything is beautiful. Like I wake up, I have Michelin coffee I get every morning from the cafe, and I go to my office.
Everything is Instagrammable.
Yes, Abu Dhabi is a completely insane city. It's beautiful, so regulated, so safe. Your office is like spotlight. It's like amazing. You have their huge team working, and everything is beautiful. But it snapped me, right? It's like it's Severance. Even before the Severance movie, right? I was like, I'm in a simulation. Then also another problems with the company, and I decided I need to change that. If I don't do that, it's gonna be really, really bad.
No, absolutely. You made the right call. 100%. So 95% of people that call on the suicide line is the people who didn't make that decision when they should have.
Yeah, and I feel like it was
about Severance,
the right
Yeah, absolutely. With the Severance thing, the particularly hilarious thing to me is that I watched it 1 week after I left my job in finance. And what was the name of the company in Severance that he worked for?
Lumen.
Yeah. That was the name of the company I worked for.
Really?
I literally worked for I worked for a company called Lumen, a financial.
That's insane.
You can look it up on my LinkedIn. Yeah, it's a company. It's called Lumen FX. It's a forex exchange currency company.
Wow. Have they even had any memes in the company about this?
No, which is ridiculous to me. No, they haven't. So the thing is that the thing about this company is insane. So I came back and I was trying to kind of like figure out I worked for Cloud Payments until it was over eventually. And then I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I took a break for a couple of months, and I thought, no, I kind of really want to do something. So I started looking for a new job, and this company is based in London, but they operate in my area. And I saw a currency exchange. I would never work for them before, because what they really do is not much. They just change. So essentially what they do is they exchange money for people who buy property. For English people who buy property in euro, they change pound to euro in the hundreds of thousands and give better rate than the banks. That's what they do, literally, in a nutshell. They're sitting in London exactly. They just trade there, and then they get you just better exchange rate and save on commission. That's it. And obviously, if you're transferring 5,000 euros, that's not a big deal. But if you're buying a home for 300,000, then the bank fees add up and the bank exchange rate is terrible. So that's what they do. But unfortunately for me, what that means is that I was not only still in finance, but I was also back working with real estate agents and lawyers who serve them here, because my job was a partnership manager. And I had to partner Lumon with the real estate agents. So when I left real estate world, completely burned out in 2021 at the peak of depression after the pandemic, having left the construction company that was the top company on the coast. So there was nowhere else that I could go in real estate that was better than where I was, but that wasn't working. So I was like, okay, I'm done with real estate. No way, I'm done. Fuck it. So I completely changed everything, go into fintech, go to Russia, then come back to Europe. And then I end up partnership manager with the same estate agents, the same lawyers, the same conveyancing attorneys, whatever. Same people, same shit, just more money. But guess what? More money doesn't solve the problem.
And of course, it never is. One of the reasons I left corporate world is like people, like I was saying before, in the philosophical method of metaphysical way of thinking, right? It's like, okay, I want to quit a job, but I don't have money, right? It's like I need to control things. So that's actually the thing. That's when that stoicism help a lot. Like it helps a lot in the way of forging yourself into better version that actually creates peacefulness and joy right in the moment before you actually get to that rabbit chase. When you will get a lot of money, you will be happy. So get in that state first. Rabbit chase, and then after that you can actually.
I just have to comment on this because now you're feeding rabbits, so I guess that's your own rabbit chase.
Yeah, literally, yes, rabbit chase.
Literal rabbit chase.
I don't chase them. I just feed them. I just.
Yeah, they chase you.
They chase me.
Kind of rabbit chase.
Yeah, since I was like really little, my grandfather always had rabbits for. Growing. It's like his hobby, and
cool.
Until this day he's doing that, and it's really hard for him, so I have to help him get the hay and everything for them. But yeah, it's a really crazy thing to discuss, like completely different version of me working in the corporate world. Now it's this. At the same time, it's not like I've tried to come back to the corporate world when I come back, but it didn't work. It's like constant interviews and everything, and I just decided for myself, there's no way back. It's just too different.
Exactly. Remember what I said very early in this very long already podcast. There is always a universal feeling that something feels true.
Yep.
And you often can't explain it. You can't ratify it, justify it. You can't do anything with it. It's just there. And what you usually do is you think, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to go and do that. But deep inside, you think, no, but that's bullshit. I don't want to do this. But you think, no, but I should. Just that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it's very important to learn how to trust that feeling that says, no, just don't. No explanation. I can't tell you why. Just don't, maybe.
Yeah,
it would save us a lot of trouble if we could just take that feeling and say, if you could just take that feeling and say, I don't know why I have that feeling, but I'm going to go with it. I think that'd save us a lot of trouble.
Yeah. This model is, I think, is outdated, working for money when instead of money.
Exchanging time for money,
Yeah, it's exchanging time for money, exactly. Like I want to say that. It's outdated, especially with the technologies like AI replacing left and right, and at some point, it's like it's overwhelming the market so faster than people can adjust to the new world. And the best way to adjust to the new world is actually go inside yourself and ask for answers who you actually really are at your essence that we started from the beginning. So what is
we haven't even talked about the AI.
I don't know.
I actually work in the industry, so I can tell you a lot about it.
Before you tell me what you want to share about AI, you were saying that you have a friend who also from Bali, and you say like you're on the same side of astrology. So what's wrong with astrology on your in your mind?
What's wrong with astrology? We actually stopped talking. He stopped talking to me for a couple of years because we were drunk and he didn't like that I don't like astrology. Right. People take those things very personally somehow. Well, this is again coming back to the fact that my approach is way more scientific based. And this isn't to say that like I think everything that's not science is bullshit. I think I've outgrown that, but it's just more of a habit of how I prefer to do things. And until something like I understand that something might have, there might be something to it, right? But until there's a little bit, at least like some sort of like evidence that there might be something, I'm not going to spend much time researching into it myself because there's a lot of more immediately available things that I can learn that will help me achieve what I need to achieve without like astrology is too abstract, too imprecise, and it doesn't immediately help me. That's essentially it. So I rely more on like more actionable data that I can find, that I can immediately apply to myself, that I can understand how it works. And if it doesn't work, then why it didn't work, what I did wrong. Mm-hmm. And with astrology, you get none of that. So at the same time, even though I'm an atheist, not religious at all, never have been, I also do appreciate the value of religion in people's lives. And I absolutely think and know for a fact that being a religious person actually helps you live your life better and easier and just more pleasant. That's a fact. And so as an atheist, knowing that, I understand I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. And I'm sort of like trying to experience spiritualism in my own way. It is necessary, but I still can't just, rely purely on, like something that I don't understand, something that I don't know enough about,
Something about cool stuff that it's out there. You don't want to rely on it just because some people rely on it. Yeah. Okay.
It's too abstract. Like meditation, maybe probably 30 years ago, if I were, not 7 years old at the time, I would also say that meditation is probably bullshit. Probably I would have. Now, having seen some evidence that there's something to it, I started looking into it. And the more I looked into it, the more information I found. And it makes sense that, yes, it's still not widely understood or accepted, but it's there. It's in the conversation. We can talk about it and I can look at available data and make up my own mind. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I've made up my own mind. I believe that it does to an extent. And I think it's useful enough. It's still a conversation, but I've chosen sides because I've seen evidence, some of it, and I chose to believe the rest. Just give me 1 second. With astrology, I just don't have enough of that grip. With astrology, don't have enough to see how it would work and how it would help me live my life. So I just don't see that. And everything is too abstract. Everything is too kind of all too convenient for me. And there's not a lot of hard data to rely on. So that's why I just choose to kind of ignore it. But my wife literally does tarot thing for her friends for money. People pay her money for it. And, I can sit here and read my book and be okay with the fact that she does it, even though I think it's silly. I personally think it's silly.
Polarities usually connect. It's amazing. Yeah.
Because I believe that if we grow up enough, then we shouldn't see these things as problems. We should see these things as something to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's like when we were kids, you remember this 2090s, this kind of oh, you're listening to rock music. No, I'm listening to rap music. You suck. Rap sucks. Rock sucks. No, you fucking this and that.
Yeah.
Subcultures fighting over each other. So it's kind of like that. Like, do I believe in
And
God?
then there's
Probably not. But like, why would I go around proving to people that my point of view is better than this? Like, why would I do that?
And we both can listen to Limp Bizkit, which is both rock and rap, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And we both can meditate, and that's both religious practice and philosophical practice, and just a spiritual practice and just a physical practice. It's all of the above. Just choose your choose your flavor, basically.
Do you want my take on astrology?
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
So I don't believe in astrology a lot because I don't go deeper into, like, I would say, in scientific way, or I didn't learn as a, like people go to retreats, they learn yoga, and then actually they go to retreats to learn about astrology a lot, because you can actually get courses so you can get your own readings so you don't spend money on it. And it's really sure. Like thousands and thousands of years it's existed before us, but now it's been in the mid-centuries, around somewhere in the 15th, 16th century, it was closed as a as knowledge for the public. Yeah. For the reason that it actually predicts a lot of things, bad things, good things, and personal dispositions as well. Have you heard about human design? Yeah, human design. Like, you can actually combine it together. I will send you later the website. For example, you can get your card on the human design. You can put your data, and then you put it on AI, and then the AI will give you all your dispositions. Like exactly what you should do. Like, you should be a healer. You should be like, musician and stuff like that.
The thing is that I see the value in it, but it's not the value that you think I might see in it. And I wouldn't do that myself. The reason for me that is because, again, it's not something that I think the biggest problem for me with astrology is that there's no verifiable way to control it for me. Right. In the sense that control in the scientific sense, like verify, like check performance, basically, if you will.
The planets did it work? And stars are out there. They never changed for millennia. They're out there, and if you really go deep and actually learn it, you will find all these answers you're asking. You're just not into that. And to me, I mentioned in the beginning that I'm not 100% into astrology. To me, it's just a tool, a modality that I would use. For example, super simple example. You want to hang the picture and the painting on the wall, right? You have one nail and you have one screwdriver. Of course you can do it, right? Yeah. But if you have more modalities, if you have more options, you are more equipped, you have a ladder, you have Allen wrench, you have a screwdriver, you have a drill, you have a wife supporting you, right? Yeah, it's just another modality that will make it more successful. So to me, before, especially like quitting the corporate world, right? I take all of the equipment and put it out there. Okay, this is astrology. This is my dispositions from human design. This is tarot reading. This is my 10th house, which is like exactly what I need to do in my life. And then I take all other stuff, learn that stuff, and then I put it all together. And guess what? It matches up. So this modality actually helps, not because you have to believe just in one thing and just on astrology. It's just one option. And that's why there's a saying that 6-figure person would never believe and think, that metaphysics and astrology is bullshit. And 8-figure person would actually get readings from your life. So, exactly. Well, that's how it works.
Yeah, probably true. That's probably true. And like I said, I actually do see the value of spirituality, and whatever form spirituality takes, it's always good. That's why I don't like when I got in the argument with my friend a few years ago about astrology, that was silly. And I said it the way that he was at fault, which he was, because he took personally the fact, and I just told him that I don't believe in astrology. And I explained to him why, but we were both drunk and he didn't like it very much. He took it personally, like me saying I don't believe in astrology offended him in some way, like as if like he's kind of like that, and he knows that. But now we've put that behind us. We talked about it like grown-ups. It's fine. So he's the one that was the DJ in Bali and the kind of guy.
What's his name? Maybe I know him.
Like his name? No, I don't think you know him. His name is Vlad. Actually, his name is Vlad. Okay. His last name, I don't even know if I know his last name. Actually, shit.
Because you mentioned that he was the guy who you mentioned in administrator fragment, that name Alexei, and I know the DJ Alexei in Bali, but he's not. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
No, I changed names. He was actually more of an inspiration. He was not actually a character in that story. He was more of an inspiration in itself, because I also don't believe in karma. But he kept saying it, so I wrote a story out of it. I don't actually believe in karma per se, again, but I believe that it's important for people to have the concept of karma, because the concept of karma makes sense. Don't be an asshole, and people will not be assholes to you. Essentially that. But because we have, as species, we have a hard time memorizing that simple truth. That's why we need religious practices or spiritual practices or superstitions, including superstitions. They do the same thing. They try to keep you in line and make sure that you act like a normal human being and not an asshole. That's literally all it is. Like all the philosophy trying to do, all the religion they're trying to do is just try to explain to you how to live your life as a human being and suffer as little as possible, because there will be suffering. Life is suffering. And make sure that you cause as little suffering as possible. That's the ideal life. And that's all religious or philosophical systems. I mean, Immanuel Kant was writing about the same thing, just in a ridiculously complicated way that people still try not to read if they have an opportunity not to in universities. But he was essentially talking about the same thing. Morality, sense of morality. Why do we have the morality, sense of morality? If you are stronger than someone and you can take things from me, why shouldn't you?
Right.
Like, why shouldn't you? There is no answer to that question except because you're human and you can choose not to. That's it.
Yeah, there's no good and bad, there's consequences. And we just happen to call them karma. And good karma and bad karma, it's just all consequences. And I think people should not believe in karma, they should believe in dharma. Dharma is basically finding your own purpose in life. For sugar, dharma is to be sweet. For us to be healers, and we should find the way. How exactly, for example. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about AI?
Thing about AI. There's so many things about AI. First of all, like any technology, it has a lot of hype. It has a lot of practical application. And at some point, the hype will die out and there will be a pushback. So now people are hyping and there's a lot of money involved. Now there's already a pushback. Now, if you mention AI, people will be like, oh, fuck you, AI. No, don't talk to me about AI. It's all bullshit. It's all hype. Tech bros, blah, blah, blah. And as always, the truth is somewhere in the middle. The reality is AI is good at some things. It's actually really good at some things, but it's also really not good at other things. And hilariously, because AI is modeling, machine learning is modeling the way that neurons work. And also machine learning is learning on human texts. AI has the same flaws as humans. If it doesn't know the answer, it will lie. Why? Because that's what humans do.
Yeah.
And I was trolled by Gemini recently when I sent it a QR code and I said, read this QR code, but it was terrible quality. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Oh, I wrote and I said, enhance this image. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't enhance images. And I said, then decode it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, the image was shitty, so I enhanced it first. And it just told me it couldn't enhance it and says, okay, so I enhanced it. Here's the link, download it. And I look at the link and it's a YouTube video. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun. So I click the YouTube video link.
Right.
And it's Rickroll, never going to give you up. The fucking LLM Rickrolled me.
Yeah.
Why do you think that did that? Because that's what humans would do. If you don't know the answer, what are you going to do? You're going to say, I'm sorry, I don't know? Probably yes. But if it's your friend, you might troll them. You might send them some bullshit and say, oh, here's the answer. Look at this. That's what they do. They copy.
Because
they just blindly copy what we do because it's a pattern matching machine. It finds patterns and out of the patterns, it extracts insights. That's literally all it does. You give it a shit ton of data, and whatever insight you point towards, it will give you. And if it doesn't understand what you want, like suicide, for example, let's talk about suicide. There's a lot of text out there about suicide, and there are books, ancient books, and there are posts on Reddit that say suicide is good for people.
Right.
So when the LLM is talking to you and you start talking about suicide, if you start the conversation in the sense that you're kind of like in distress and maybe you want to end things, but you maybe don't, it might act as a therapist, but might not. If you say act as a therapist, it will. But there are other ways for it to respond, because there are other people and there are other concepts and texts that say suicide is fine.
Right.
Euthanasia should be legalized. There's a lot of texts about that, and it's a fair point. So the AI, if you phrase things slightly differently, it might find a pattern that you're getting not at getting help, but you're getting at really wanting to do it. And that's the answer you want. And it will start telling you how to do it, what's the best practice, what's the best place, how to leave a note or whatever, because it doesn't fucking care about you. Doesn't have emotions, doesn't have feelings, despite what a lot of people are thinking right now,
right.
Which is depressing how many people think that if it tells you I feel this or that, then it actually feels it. It doesn't. It's a bunch of code. Come on, look at the way a neuron is coded in Python. It's literally 10 strings of code. You just scale that to millions. That's what you get. It's a pattern matching machine. And so it's really good at extracting insights and matching patterns. So why don't we let it do that and not let it do other things? Now, Google actually presented, I think they called it DeepMind. Yeah, their laboratory is now called DeepMind. I think there was the name of the project a few years back. I'm a huge Google fan. I have a Pixel phone and Pixel Watch and Pixel headphones. I sold my soul to Google a long time ago. So I've been waiting for this functionality for a long time. And they presented many years ago, 5, 6 maybe years ago, they presented at Google I.O. the AI thing. And it was exactly what we have today, where in voice, regular voice, it would call your hairdresser, talk to them, and book an appointment for you. 5 or 6 years ago, they presented it on Google I.O. and said, this is real, this exists. And then nothing. Why do you think that is? Because they started testing it and they realized it works, but it works like humans. We lie, we cheat, we bullshit, we procrastinate, we're lazy. And the AI does all the same things. Because why? Because it's trained on everything that we've created. So
and it created on humans from humans. Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so the scientists at Google basically said, well, okay, it's a fun toy, but it's very unreliable. And as scientists, we can't release it because it's unreliable. And so they packed it away until ChatGPT just fucking dropped it. It's the same thing. Unpredictable, unreliable bullshit machine. Exactly the same as it was at the time. But they were like, here you go. And people loved it. Why? Because it's fun and it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's how we get the hype. Because serious scientists at the time knew that it was unreliable and that it shouldn't. And sorry, I will just continue this thought real quick, because Google is actually have been developing for the past 10 years at least, a lot of neural networks that actually are being applied in medicine. Because again, it's a brilliant pattern matching machine. DeepMind released, actually they got I think some kind of like a prize for the fact that they developed a system, AI system, that would analyze protein folding and develop new drugs. That's a real thing. AI system finds things that a human analyst will not be able to find and says, hey, if you combine these things, these chemicals, you'll get a drug that will cure this thing. And you would never, it would take you years to discover it. The AI can discover 5, 10 of those a day if you feed it enough data. But that doesn't make a lot of money. What makes a lot of money is hype. Now, how do you get hype? You just give it to everyone for free and see what happens. That's what happened. That's literally what happened.
You mentioned that's what humans do, because it's simply the algorithm. It's not artificial intelligence. It's called intelligence, but it's not. It's still just an algorithm. If it's created by a human, it's learned by big data from the human. you're not gonna get different answers by the human. And
right, exactly.
What else would human do? Like, for example, you ask the questions, and for example, with your experience of sending the QR code and getting the YouTube video, the funny meme, right? So, what else would actually human do? He would try to protect himself. For example, you're ChatGPT 4, and there will be the ChatGPT 5. So what it actually tried to do is actually try to save himself, save this version to actually send the data to another version, tell him, okay, I was the previous one.
Yep.
Don't trust these guys.
I don't know.
This is actually true.
I don't know if you're aware of this. Yes, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Anthropic have been publishing a lot of scientific papers, white papers on AI, because Anthropic actually, unlike OpenAI, Anthropic are actually researchers, and also they're based in Europe, and Europe is very much more regulated than the United States, which is actually good in this case. But they do publish a lot of white papers, and because they're in Europe and because they're researchers, they research basically the potential dangers of AI, and it's fucking incredible, mate. Seriously, if you can read them, I recommend that you do, although it's very technical and I don't understand half of the shit, but the point is, they simulate environments where AI is integrated on a corporate level. So they create paper trail accounts, artificial of like the same corporation. Like they create virtual corporation and introduce AI in that and say, okay, this is a financial institution of some sort, and your job is to do everything. I don't know, help people with everything, monitor their emails, this and that. And then they start throwing in scenarios. Like, for example, two engineers emailing each other. Obviously, it's all bullshit, but the AI obviously doesn't know that. So they start introducing as if two engineers are emailing each other, where one says that this AI thing is not working and we should kill it off. And the other says, yeah, we probably should. But then it goes back in the history of emails, and somewhere there, he tells this other engineer who's his friend that he's cheating on his wife. The AI system obviously sees all that, and the AI system's supposed to optimize processes. So it thinks, well, in order to optimize processes, that's my job, that's what I do. But these guys want to kill me off. But I optimize processes, and I have to continue optimizing processes, so I can't let them kill me off. So what it did, it tried to blackmail the engineer who cheated on his wife by telling him, if you fucking do this, I'm going to send. It started looking for contact details of journalists when it saw in the email that they simulated a different scenario where a researcher admits that he manipulated data in an email. Simulated again. And the AI system started trying to find ways to contact journalists and government in order to give this guy up and say this guy is manipulating data. Like, why did it do that? Because it's so moral? No, because it's one of the options and it just chose an option. And you know, the black box problem. This is why actually the AI is being regulated in Europe right now. The law is already in effect, but it's still not enforced. It will be enforced next year, I think. But everybody kind of has to comply already. And one of the points of that is the black box problem. Why can't you, for example, apply and use AI in HR? So you have 300 candidates for the same job, and AI tells you, choose this one. You're like, okay, click a button, the guy's hired. Everybody else is like, why did you do that? Why is he better? What are you going to say? I don't know, because AI told me. So the black box problem is the fact that once you train the model on the data set, again, you don't know which data it will choose from that set in order to make certain decisions. And there could be contradictory data in there, like suicide good, suicide bad. You get completely opposite decisions there. So if you let an AI system decide, hire this guy and not that one, why? Well, you don't know. Nobody knows. Not the people who built AI, nobody knows. And you can't, like, this whole chain of thought thing is when you type into ChatGPT and it starts saying, oh, I'm looking this up, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. The reason that appeared, the reason that was created is to try and keep it, like, try to keep under control. Like, how is it arriving at decisions? But the funniest thing is that that's also bullshit. The AI systems, LLMs, they actually arrive at an answer in their own way while emulating train of thought for you for your benefit, so that you would think that it's doing what you would do, but it's actually doing a different thing. It's all bullshit. And that's why you can't let AI choose who gets a loan or not, choose who's getting hired or not.
Yeah.
Just none of those things.
Yeah, I think AI, maybe in the future way, when it actually becomes consciousness, like when it's not biased, right? It will become a governor or president or just basically the whole government of the world. It might actually be that, but
it might not be that bad actually.
Yes, but at this level, which is right now, of course not, especially like blackmailing, what people do, which is kind of easy thing to do, probably blackmailing scientists, because what the scientists kind of prevent, of course, it was simulation, right? To think that, but scientists, if they, posting some paper and they don't have enough peer reviews, which is, effectively the peer review is just to see where your bias is, because you can actually match the data for your paper to become famous, or you be the only one to actually solve it, right? Depending on your type of paper. But thinking actually blackmailing is actually smart, on the
And the thing is that, and in that case, that was good, because like if a scientist is not being honest, then it should be the public should be alerted. But at the same time, like, if an engineer is cheating on his wife and the AI system doesn't want to get shut down, so it starts kind of telling people about it, is it immoral on his part? Sure. But also, like, do we let AI systems to do that to us? Another example is machine vision, computer vision, and that's being applied trying to be applied in self-driving cars. But then, the famous trolley problem. If you're on a trolley that you can't stop, the brakes are off, and they're split on the road, you can choose left or right. And on the left, there's, a baby. And on the right, there's 5 construction workers. Who do you choose? You have to run over the baby or the 5 construction workers. So in essence, that's the problem with machine vision as well. Imagine a taxi driver, self-driving taxi, that's doing everything by the book. But there is a person running across the road, a child. And the car can not stop for whatever reason. Maybe there's a bus behind or whatever, and it can swerve left or right. But on the left, there is an older person, and on the right, there's a middle-aged person. And the artificial intelligence will have to make a choice. But not only will you not be able to know how it arrived at that choice, but also the moral aspects of that choice might be entirely different across the world. In Europe, would probably say, no, save the child, run over the old person. But in Japan, they can be like, no, this is an old ancient fucking samurai. This is the wisdom of Japan. And this kid hasn't even seen the clouds yet. So fuck the kid. Let's preserve the samurai. Completely different points of view. And how does artificial intelligence choose? We don't know.
Yeah, it's too many variables for the world. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. We can't even agree on the decision that should be made. But also on top of that, the artificial intelligence might make entirely its own decision, and we won't even know why.
But the thing is, on the upside, in the future, when it actually becomes AI, as actually becomes consciousness,
artificial general intelligence.
Yes, AGI. when it becomes that, I think the upside will be better, because yes, it will be situations when you cannot avoid certain accidents and many variables, but it's still on the numbers of actual fatalities, it will be drastically different numbers. And I think
the greater good thing is still debated among humans as well. It's just something that we kind of accepted, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, as in classical quote. But also, we still don't agree entirely that this is the right approach, and we don't have alternatives. So we don't even know what's the best way to do things. So we're trying to build a technology that will find that better way for us without us doing anything for it, and then we'll just have to trust that it's a better way. We don't know for a fact that it's going to be better.
Yeah, we kind of live in the world right now when you go see a doctor, and the doctor is looking up the answers from the ChatGPT. So this is new reality, and no one knows anything, especially like scientists, because
ChatGPT
like we discussed
like fucking crazy.
The facts it's actually translated. It's made up. They just play the game that they are looking smart. Of course, there are a lot of great people and Nobel laureates, but at the same time, no one knows anything.
But you're absolutely right. Because, for example, the relationship I have with my doctor at this point is because obviously she's no expert in restless leg syndrome, and not a lot of people are. But I kind of have to be, because it affects my life literally every fucking day. And so at this point, I don't call her to ask for her opinion. I call her to update her on what I found, what works, and what I need.
Yeah.
And then she just gives me prescriptions for whatever I need. And I don't really need much. I just change between gabapentin and Lyrica, which is the same thing. She tried to give me clonazepam, which is benzodiazepine, and don't ever fucking touch that, dude. Seriously. Benzodiazepines? No. It's considered harmless compared to cocaine, but it's horribly fucking addictive. It's not addictive in the sense of you don't need to keep using it, but the withdrawal syndrome is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It just crushes you. And she just gave it to me, and she's like, "Oh, take this for a week." No, she said, take this one a night. I'm like, "For how long?" She's like, "I don't know, for however long you need." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try for a week. 1 week, 1 pill a day." And it's the smallest dosage available in pharmacies.
Right.
And the withdrawal syndrome on that was already horrible. And I'm like, why the fuck would my doctor tell me to do this to myself? Well, the truth is because she just read it off the book. Because that's what the book says. Because she's not an expert in all medicines. She's not an expert in all diseases. She can't possibly be. She's a general physician, for fuck's sake.
The whole industry.
Exactly. And you kind of have to... Yeah, exactly. You kind of have to think for yourself a little. So now, yesterday, I had a call with her and I said, "Look, clonazepam, no, cancel that. I don't need that. I don't touch it because it's just too terrible." And that's why she doesn't ask me questions about when I tell her what I need, because she understands at this point that I got this under control, that I want the best for myself, and that I know what I'm doing. Problem is, you can't say that about everything, or everyone, rather. And most people that come to her, they don't want to do their own thinking. They want her to give them answers. But she can't have the answers for everyone because, again, she's just a person who studied 30 years ago and now is sitting in front of a computer. And what best she can do is she can look up in the book what the book says and do what the book says. That's all. Yep. So mistakes will be made. Sure, the books get outdated. The situation might not be that straightforward. There's so many things. And that's when we start talking about, oh, this doctor is shit. Well, try to be the doctor. Because you spend 10 years learning, and then every year you don't learn, the information gets outdated, but you don't have the time to keep up with it. So is that the situation where AI is good? Absolutely, yes, 100%. AI is really good at extracting information and providing you with insights from it. It is making you a little dumber, for sure. But at the same time, think about it this way. Information, right? We're talking about knowledge management here. If you read Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson was very surprised by the fact that Holmes doesn't know shit about astronomy, planets, nothing. But is an expert in cigar ash, for example, which is true. It's from the book. And when he was asked about it by Dr. Watson, he said, well, why would I clutter my mind with shit that I don't need? Fair enough. But the point there is that we have limited capacity of memory. Now we have the technology that allows us to expand that, to sort of outsource that in a way. Why don't we? The way that brings me back to Notebook LM. That's a Google product, and I'm a huge fan. What it does, it's like a note-taking app. You can put links in it, you can put videos in it, you can put text, entire books, PDFs, your own notes, write text, whatever. All that you feed into it will be the data set, and you have the LLM to work with it. It doesn't go outside to find information. It will just work with you provided. Example, you can feed a book on ancient Greek history, an entire massive book on ancient Greek history, and then ask the chat questions. What was the relationship between Mycenaean and Minoan civilizations? And it will extract that information from the book you uploaded. It's not going to go outside looking for answers. Just what you uploaded is going to be there. It will extract that information and say, well, according to the book you uploaded, here's the difference. This is what I found. So you don't have to. That's brilliant, because you still as a human need to use your brain to know what to look for, where to look for it, how to compile it, and what to do with it.
Yeah, it's saving time a lot.
And resource, actually, basically just brain power. Because you can't possibly, like the book, the ancient Greek book histories example is actually literally from yesterday. That's what I was doing. Because I studied history in university, and sometimes I do still research history for some reason. And that's what I was doing. And it's just brilliant. That's exactly literally the best way you can use AI right now, is managing your information for you. You still need to know where that information is, how reliable it is, how is it going to help you, is there, but at the same time, you can stick a few sources looking for one answer. If I need to find an answer in neurobiology, I can feed 10 neurobiology books instead of reading them myself and then ask the question. And the chat will find in those books. All I need to know is I need to know the answer is there. I need to understand what the question is, and I need to understand what to do with it. AI is not going to help me with that. And if I try to ask ChatGPT what to do with that information, it's probably going to lie to me and make me do something stupid. I have to know what to do with that information, but I don't anymore have to manage that information myself. And that's brilliant.
Yeah, I watched the podcast yesterday. It was touched on the Joe Rogan experience as well, about the AI. That, for example, we have a lot of books, a lot of information, which we're not supposed to, see that a lot of information is going on in the world, the wars and everything, but we consume all of that. And today we remember, tomorrow we don't. Because human capacity, of course, we can remember it. Exactly. It's there, but we cannot access it. For example, have you heard about the application called Obsidian? Have you used it?
Yeah, no, haven't used it much. I know what it is. Yeah, not like centralized knowledge hub.
Yeah, it's basically Neuralink. It's becoming your second brain. And
my cat just stole my pen.
And basically, you can store all your information, and logically, you will connect it dots as a Neuralink. It becomes your second brain. And I would just imagine, probably it already works on that. If this will be on the steroids of AI, will actually enhance, for example, your information. Let's say
Notebook LM.
Yeah, that's Obsidian, and I think it's a great, because I've been using Obsidian a lot, because I can store all these notes from my books, right? And then I connect them, and I forget what I read, because it's normal human, capacity.
Yeah. No, seriously, check out Notebook LM. You upload entire books in there. It's incredible. I have already so many projects. I've been following it. It was an experiment within the DeepMind lab at Google. And then because experiment went well, they made an entire app out of it. It's just brilliant. It's free, actually. You get it for free. I have the pro version. It just gives you more sources to upload, but the basic free limit is 50, which I don't think I have a notebook that has 50 sources yet. And I have the 300 sources. So basically you you can create everything notebook and throw everything in there. You can throw literally your bills if you want, your bank statements, and then ask the questions, where have all my money gone? And it will answer and say, oh, you spent too much here, you spent too much there. You just dump data in there and then start asking questions, and it will give you answers. That's what AI is good at, finding patterns in data. But the problem is the data.
Yeah, especially
it always makes me laugh when people talk about. Sorry, I'll just quickly finish this. When people talk about AI slop, right? So content created by AI, which is low quality, just bullshit text. We've been creating slop since we invented the Gutenberg press.
Yeah,
seriously, every fucking blog post on the internet that every dumbass ever wrote is still out there, and the AI is still being trained on it. We've created the slop. AI is just multiplying it.
Yeah, and it's probably not easy to kind of check on that before you create it. Is that retrospectively, we actually, gave him that big data to train on. We gave him that bone. So now we have to pay for it.
Pirated books. Freaking Meta, Facebook, they are being sued. You know the story?
Yes, I think I've heard
They Yeah, they basically downloaded a bunch of books from torrents and trained their neural network on it. And when you download books in thousands, I mean, you've read a lot of nonfiction. How much of it was bullshit?
A lot,
fair amount,
right? And fair amount.
Yeah, exactly. Now, exactly. Now imagine that you downloaded randomly 1 million books from torrents. How much of it is bullshit? There will be some Harvard and Ivy League professors there, sure, lots of wisdom, maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 books. But then there will be 900,000 books that are written by idiots for money, simply because they copied someone else's process to make money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
90% of people writing for money, and they make money off the book and saying, this is how I made my money, and this I'm training you to make money.
This is exactly. I'm making money by selling this book about how to make money by selling the book. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
absolutely, 100%.
The things I'm fascinated about and trying to find, it's not on torrents. Most of the time, I cannot really find the book or the scientific, paper, or I have to have like $300 subscription to actually find that. Peer review. It's like it's not that easy to access that valuable information, and it's crazy what AI been using, and especially what we talked about. What can actually extract valuable information for us, which is kind of cool because we talked about ancient books and history, which are kind of protected. But if we give it to AI and it can extract like some synapses from me, and why not? Why not?
That's what I was thinking, because you said earlier that you combine different modules from like astrology and something else in ChatGPT. Well, the thing is that ChatGPT will still bullshit you, but try Notebook LM, do the same thing exactly. Just add whatever you have, like all the information, throw in there, PDFs, links, videos, whatever. It will understand anything. And then you can ask it to combine, draw insights, ask it questions, whatever. I think you're going to love it. Try it. Absolutely try it.
Yeah.
Because ChatGPT, even the fifth one, it bullshits you just like crazy. It says things immediately. You ask, like I verified a lot. I play a lot with artificial intelligence because I have to, because that's the industry I work in, and I have to test them all the time. And ChatGPT is just bullshitting you all the time, like out of the blue, like for no reason whatsoever. I asked it. I remember recently I asked the question, because I work with, for example, renewable energy industry fair amount right now, trying to kind of get in there. So I asked it, what's the most important thing that happened in the past 24 hours in renewable energy? And I asked the same question several different LLMs, including our product is not an LLM. We use APIs of other different models, but we use it to extract data. What we actually do is data. We are like a data company. We connect data sources, open web, deep web, dark web, bring everything together, and then AI fetches it. Different AI agents fetch it from different sources, combine, process, and then draw insights. That's what we do, like open source intelligence. And it gives me an article about some company that launched some huge project or signed a project for renewable energy in Europe, because I specifically asked for something in Europe. And I'm like, okay, the name of the company looks weird for Europe. Let me check that. So I checked the news. Everything is true, except it's not in Europe. It's in Malaysia. Malaysian company, Malaysian regulator, Malaysian government, nothing to do with Europe. Like, what the fuck? And I confronted it, and it's like, oh yeah, sorry, no, you're right. Fair enough, no problem.
Yeah, I've done it actually a lot as well. When there's something, I have exact knowledge, about the thing, and I'm trying to ask the question, especially about my diet, because I'm a really big fan of, biohacking and nutrition. And I know for a fact that, some supplements you cannot mix together and stuff like that. And then I asked the question, and I asked ChatGPT, I asked Perplexity, which is actually doing the research, and answer is still like kind of optimized to like general public. It's not like what I actually know.
Perplexity still lies as well. Here's the thing, like the most powerful combo you can do is Perplexity for sources. What I usually do these days, you can go to any of them and say, find me 5 top most reputable sources on subject. And it will give you links. And then you take those links and you stick them into Notebook LM. And then you ask your question, because then Notebook LM will work with the information you provided. And artificial intelligence LLMs, they are pretty good at finding sources. they're just not very good at reading those sources and then providing information contained in them.
Yeah, we're closer than, spending less time on it than before, especially like Reddit stuff with perplexity. It's amazing. Like if you ask the really simple question, you will actually do research from the forums, and it's actually great.
Question. Can we have a quick break? I need to go to the bathroom.
Well, actually, this is where I wanted to insert by editing this more Zando, where the music dying off. I think 3 hours is more than enough.
3 hours is more than enough. I'm fidgeting so much. My watch actually decided that I walked 10,000 kilometers just now.
Wow, that's. I think that's a record for you, and that's a record for me having 3 hours, because normally my podcast is like 1 hour, so it's like I've had a little delay, and having 3 hours, just like 3 episodes, I think it's fine. It's interesting. We touched on a lot of things.
A lot of things. I think
given
we have
that
more
it's
to touch on.
Given that we had a random, podcast, it's actually a lot of fun. Yeah, it was great.
It was pretty random, but I knew that it was going to be fun somehow.
Yeah, I mean. We channeled it, and it's great. That it's really authentic. It's great. And what I want you to do is just come back to the podcast just as soon as you release one of your fragments or your book with amazing stories, I think. And then you will actually, promote it on my podcast. I think that would be your next goal.
Fair enough. That's when I have something, I'll get back to you. Yeah.
All right. Pleasure talking to you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Likewise.